be given equal attention and resources and support. We are grateful to be in the presence of Senator Robin Padilla, one of our first-term senators and very, very active in our shared advocacies. Thank you, Senator Robin, for being here. So the hearing of the Committee on Culture and the Arts, joint with the Committee on Local Government, Finance, chaired by Senator Angara, Higher Technical and Vocational Education, is called to order. Isang makabuluhang araw sa ating lahat. In a society that is often divided by ethnicity, social class, beliefs, the definition of what Filipino culture is often debated. Sino ba ang Pilipino? Ano ba ang ating pagka-Pilipino? Ultimately, we believe that culture is the narrative that binds us together as a nation. I've always believed that. So whether it is in language or in textiles or in dance or in both tangible and intangible heritage, I believe that it is culture that binds us as a nation. So it is a story of the Filipino people throughout the centuries. Mahalaga para sa atin na bigyang kahulugan ang mga bagay na bumubuo sa ating pagka-Pilipino. Nandito tayo upang tugunan ang ating tungkulin na mapanatili, protektahan ang iba't ibang pagkakakilanlan at gawi ng pamumuhay mula pa sa panahon ng ating mga katutubo sa ating bansa. For the decades that I've been a public servant, we've always advocated for the protection of our cultural communities and their practices. We have also set up, as you know, cultural exhibitions that showcase exceptional skills and world-class traditions, products of our IPs, and supported the development long ago of cultural villages of the Atatalaingod, that's in your region, Margie, of the Mandayas as well, of the Belaan, of the Bagobo Tagabawa, in various activities of the Schools of Living Tradition. We recognize Senator Amy Marcos. Thank you for being here with us. We supported the establishment of the first textile gallery. Thank you to the very cooperative and supportive National Museum leadership. I'm glad you're still very much with us, Jeremy Barnes. And from the first exhibition where we brought in Queen Sofia, it's been what, 5 standing exhibitions already, permanent galleries, I think, or the others are in the process, right? You'll tell us about that later. So the artistry of Philippine textiles at the National Museum, in order to celebrate the indigenous artistry and revitalize our weaving traditions, is there, and many more in the provinces. And efforts like these must be coupled with institutional support and strength with legislation and budgetary support. It has been more than a decade since we passed the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009. Perhaps it is time, if you will agree and if you have suggestions, to revisit the law with the integration of cultural mapping at all levels of our government. And for this reason, we filed Senate Bill 622 and Senate Bill 117 of Senator Nancy Binay, who is my vice chair of the committee. Today, we seek to meet the changing needs of our times by addressing the issue of cultural preservation in the face of modernization and the ever-growing distractions. We filed Senate Bill 490 together with Senator Cayetano Pia, Senate Bill 552, seeking to reorganize the existing NCCA into the Department of Culture. Again, this, of course, will be subject to many discussions, so let's not go, and cause unnecessary problems. These are just pending bills to help. And if you don't like, we respect, that's all. We also recognize the importance of preserving culinary tradition as a vital part of our cultural heritage, which is why we filed Senate Bill 244, Philippine Culinary Heritage Act. We filed Senate Bill 624, establishing the Institute of Living Traditions. It's actually a refiled measure, which I filed long ago, to serve as an important center and laboratory for the protection, promotion, development of Philippine traditions. We believe that we must also institutionalize our participation in the international exhibitions of the Venice Biennale. We filed Senate Bill 492. But even without the measure, this is supported by the NCCA. And Senator Po filed Senate Bill 722, Galing Po Comics Support Act, which seeks to promote Philippine comics, an instructional material and a tool of popular art. Many more pending measures, which you may not comment on now if you are not prepared to do so, because what we want to see is what your plans are for your respective agencies. So we believe that both tangible and intangible aspects of our culture are crucial in unifying a diverse and rich nation, which is why we are thankful for your presence here today. And so may I request our committee secretary, Mr. Joey Tunak, to acknowledge our guests and resource person. But perhaps before that, may I give Senator Padilla and Senator Marcos in order of arrival. I hope you don't mind. Their chance for an opening statement in support of the creation of this committee, as well as the presence of the agencies here. Senator Padilla is recognized. Thank you.
Mahal na tagapangulo, maaari po ba bilang ating kultura ay mauna ang magandang ginang sa...
We recognize Senator Amy Marcos. Salamat, Senator Padilla.
Maraming salamat sa aking seatmate. Nanggaling rin kami sa iisang committee, yung Committee ng Agrikultura. At nais ko lang ipahiwatig, no, very simply, to our chairwoman, that there is now a new law called the Creative Industries Law that has become part of our legislation in 27th of July, I believe. And this is all encompassing for all those who earn their living through arts and culture. So some of the bills that are here pending, such as the Pinoy Comics Support Act, Culinary Heritage, even the participation in Venice, as well as the other art expositions, may be covered by that bill, which is now law. So, pwede siguro natin idagdag yon para explicit. Pero ang mga bagay-bagay dito sa ibang mga agenda natin, naroon na talaga. So, thank you very much. And I just wanted to make certain that we are aligned with that so that we strengthen our institutions as well. Kasi meron bago yun na tinatatag, yung Creative Industries Council.
Thank you for that, Senator Marcos. As co-author of the Creative Industries Act when I was Congresswoman in the past few years in the House of Representatives, of course, we are very supportive and we acknowledge that there is really an overlap cross-boundary, and that's good. That means many of the pending measures are already covered by existing law, which can be funded and can be supported. And let me just state that even if the measures filed under the committee are not yet enacted into law, you have your annual budgets under the Ncca. And as you know, whether it's the Cultural Center, the Ncca, or even the KWF, even the National Library, in the past years, I have augmented your budgets. Maybe before the time of many, but Ino knows that, how I spent 8 to 10 hours in hearings, never before, from morning till afternoon till the evening, with each and every agency. So, but I'm not your chair for the budget now, but you can always request in the event you need augmentation. And there is no government agency that does not need augmentation.
Ay, may idadagdag lang pala ako,
Yes.
no, Madam Chair. Ito yung sa Culinary Heritage Act ninyo, ipapaalam ko lang sa ating komite na yung DTI pala, kasi ako dati yung chairperson ng Economic Affairs, yung DTI, nagsaad na meron daw authentic adobo. So baka kailangan kausapin yung DTI pagkat meron silang sinusulat na ganon. Nagtataka nga kami kasi yung mga Ilocanong taga-Hawaii, meron naman chicken sari-sari na hindi natin naririnig kailanman, ngunit yung pala yung adobo na kinikilala sa Amerika.
Okay. Bigla tuloy nakakagutom ang inyong mga sinasabi. Kaya nga, ang usaping pagkain, culinary heritage, ang mga sinaunang pagkain, ang iba't ibang interpretasyon ng bawat rehiyon, bawat probinsya, huwag tayo magdedebate dyan, tikman na lang natin lahat. Oo. Sige, salamat. Thank you, Senator Marcos.
Tawagan mo.
Oo.
Kasi nandyan sila sa culinary, natatawa ako. Hindi pa ba basta may suka, adobo na yun?
At saka toyo.
Okay.
Hindi.
O yan, nagdedebate na. Pagkain pa lang yan, debate na. Ha? Okay. Sige. Senator Padilla is recognized. Senator Padilla.
Muli po, isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, magandang tagapangulo at sa ating pangalawang tagapangulo, sa inyong lahat na aming mga bisita. Isa pong malaking karangalan ang maupo dito sapagkat katabi ko po sa aking kaliwa, talaga pong sila ang simbolo ng kulturang Pilipina. Kitang-kita po natin ang kapangyarihan sa kanilang dalawa at kitang-kita po natin na umusbong na talaga ang pagka-Pilipina. Kita po natin ang ating pong tagapangulo ay sa aking pong pagkakakilala, sa aking pong unang araw dito sa Senado, siya po ang nagbigay sa akin ng napakaliwanag na pagpapaliwanag kung ano ba ang Pilipino. Katunayan, meron siya mga libro. Sinasabuhay niya kung ano yung kanyang sinasabi. At yun po ang isang hinahangaan ko at isang bagay na napakasarap pong maupo sa kanyang tabi. At sa inyo po, mahal na tagapangulo. Opo, at sa pangalawa naman po natin, sa ating pong pangalawang tagapangulo, naman po natin, batid natin na mga Marcos, sila po ang nagpalakas ng Cultural Center of the Philippines, sila po ang tatag nitong mga ito. Kaya alam natin na ipinaglalaban nila itong kultura. At isinabuhay ito ng ating First Lady Imelda Marcos. Talagang wala na pong ano yan. Wala na pong question dyan. At napakaganda po at napakapalad po natin ngayong araw na to na sila ang mga namumuno ng committee ito. Kaya maraming salamat po mga mahal na tagapangulo.
Tungkol sa iyo naman.
Ako po ay isang maraming salamat po.
Very much. Maraming salamat, Senator Padilla. Magsimula na po tayo. We start with the National Commission on Culture and Arts, Chair Escalante. Oh, may we request our Committee Secretary, Mr. Tunak, to... do we read everyone's name into the record? Okay. Or we just assume that all the names are read into the record already, so we abbreviate the process. Anyway, they will all speak. Is that okay? Does it have to be said for our stenographers to take down their names? It's okay. We abbreviate the proceedings so that we proceed with the presentations, and we state the names of the agencies and the heads present. We recognize now Chair Escalante. Salamat po.
Good morning, Senator Loren, and also Senator Padilla, and also to Senator Marcos. I will be representing two agencies in this morning's hearing. I will be starting with Ncca, and if you don't mind, I hope that the next agency will be Nhcp so that we will not break the momentum. Kung pwede lang po. Since we are limited time, is there anybody operating our slide? Okay. I request the operator of technical people to show our slides. Madam Senator, I'm planning to skip the preliminaries because I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with our mandate and also with our office. So we can start right away with the essential requirements of your committee. So the first slide that I would like to discuss would be the appropriations that we received from 2019 up to 2022. Can we make it a little bit bigger? Jenna, restore eyes. Mhm. So on our screen, we can see the appropriation of the NCCA fiscal year 2019. It's 363, but the amount that we receive is 350. For 2020, it's 216 million. It went down to 26. For last year, it was 173. It went down to 149. And for this year, it's 158, and that the amount that we receive is 128. The reason, probably the most obvious drop, would be for fiscal year 2020, and the reason is because of the pandemic. So we were not able to execute a lot of our projects because of the numerous lockdowns imposed by the government. So we decided to surrender the appropriation for NCCA to our Bayanihan Fund to help our government recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the next slides that I will be showing will be the issues and concerns, and then the priority programs of the NCCA. So the first item that you can read on our presentation would be the heritage structures, because this is part of our mandate, particularly now that there are a lot of developments going on not only in the metropolis but also outside the capital. So we have created already a division within the NCCA, because in the new charter of the National Museum, the regulatory functions used to be performed by the NMP were already transferred to the NCCA. So kasama na po ito ngayon. So NCCA now regulates the works of the national artist and also the structures declared by UNESCO, listed in the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, we also have some programs for the recovery of the cultural sector. In fact, yesterday we presented already the recovery plan for the next 6 years to the Board of Commissioners of NCCA, and then we will be circulating this to our stakeholders so that they will be aware of what will be our plans in the coming 6 years. Now, we also have concrete plans for to make the Metropolitan Theater sustainable, because I think all of us are aware that the Metropolitan Theater now is fully functional starting middle of this year, and a lot of people are already using this in their respective programs. But we don't have specific appropriation for this in our NEP for fiscal year 2023, so I am now requesting the generosity of the good senators to help us, so that, because we cannot rely so much on our Ncca, because it was also exhausted by the other projects of the NCCA. Now, last week, I also visited the provinces of Abra, Ilocos Sur, and Ilocos Norte, inspect the heritage structures damaged by the July 27 earthquake. And this is already the second of experts sent by the cultural agencies. The first one was headed by Director General Jeremy Barnes to conduct a rapid assessment of the structures. My second team, our task now is to discuss the plans of the cultural agencies as far as restoration is concerned. So I was able to talk to Governor Valera of Abra, Governor Jerry Singson of Ilocos Sur, and also to Governor Matthew Manotoc of Ilocos Norte. So I discussed with them already what are the structures that we will be prioritizing, and what are those structures that we will not anymore prioritize, and we'll just ask the local government unit and other non-government organizations to help in the restoration. 3 days after I arrived from my Ilocos trip, I wrote a letter to the President asking for financial assistance if he could appropriate a certain amount from his calamity fund. So until now, I'm still waiting for the official reply. And last Monday, when we commemorated the National Heroes Day, I was able to talk to Speaker Martin Romualdez, and I echoed the same request. And he told me to write also the Philippine Games Amusement Corporation, yung PAGCOR, because they might be able to help us also here. And in our budget proposal, Madam, we also included a certain portion. One of the wish list that we included here, if if Congress will also be willing to help this, then we will greatly appreciate, because our response to the earthquake victims will really depend on the appropriations that we will receive from the funding agencies, including the House and then the Senate, Madam.
Before you proceed, we would like to acknowledge Senator Bongo, who is also virtually present.
Okay.
Where do I see the senators who are present? Are they here on screen? Hindi ko nakikita eh. Ang nakikita ko kami. Oo. So kindly inform me, the other senators are also virtually present so that I could acknowledge them. Hi, Senator Bongo, your presence is acknowledged. Proceed, Chair.
If I may, ma'am, I will now proceed to the figures. This is our proposal, in the interest of time. So, it's quite very small there. So we have some requests here. One is really for our capital outlay. This will cover various information and communication expenses, kasi po kailangan po ng Metropolitan Theater ng malakas na internet for its performances. And since this is a new building, this was not covered by the fund for the restoration. And then we also have some proposals as far as the reorganization of our offices, because Ncca now keeps on growing and growing, so the spaces that we have in our Intramuros office is no longer enough. So what we're doing now is we will be transferring some of our offices in the ground floor and second floor of the Aroseros wing of the Metropolitan Theater, and it will entail some expenses. Now, on the second page of our proposal, we have here some, we mentioned here some laws entrusted to Ncca for implementation. For instance, the Order of the National Artist, the Gawad na Likhang-Bayan, the National Music Competition for Young Artists, which is a very recent one, and of course our law on Centro Rizal, and the proclamation for the Filipino Heritage Festival. And then, yeah, I mentioned already the Metropolitan Theater. I mentioned already the response to the earthquake, and of course our regular entry in the Philippine art in the Venice Biennale. And the Likhaan, Lunduyan ng Tradisyon, the Dayo Publication, the Intangible Cultural Heritage, our support to the creative industries. I think this is the one that Senator Marcos was referring earlier. And also our traditional programs on cultural mapping and Filipino cultural values appreciation, and the implementation of and then the localization of the cultural response and resiliency plan. Ito na po yung bagong naming programa ngayon para matulungan po nating makabangon ang ating mga cultural workers. So, malaking bagay po, Madam Senator, kung ito po ay nakukonsidera ng inyong komite, nang sa ganun magampanan po namin ng maayos ang aming mandato. Yun po sa Ncca pa lang po muna ito.
Thank you very much. Loud and clear. This is an organizational meeting to see the vision, but we already know that, and the mandate, and if there are any new projects and programs where we could help you. And I think what you're telling us is this is what we need to be able to move forward all the plans and programs. So we hear you loud and clear. We do not promise anything, but we always promise to bring it to the attention of the body. Thank you. We proceed now with, yes.
Will it be all right, ma'am, if I proceed with the Historical Commission, because I will be presenting.
Executive Director will no longer speak, no? Okay, you can proceed now.
Okay, so I will now be
Yes,
presenting the proposal of NHCP.
thank you.
The trust now of NHCP, because of the pandemic, we decided to digitize our collections in order to serve better our researchers. So we call this the National Memory Project. This is a 5-year program wherein we are collecting and digitizing a lot of archival documents. So these are the documents that normally one could not find in a regular library. So we were able to come up with a tie-up with Archivo General de Indias and also the different archives in other parts of Spain and also with the US and some universities as well. So what we're going to do is we will come up with a platform wherein researchers need not go to the Nhcp central office in order to access this. Now, it's not only our partners abroad and in the national level that will be digitized, even the collections of our local networks, local archives, local libraries, private libraries also all over the country, we will also have them available online. So just 2 months ago, we went to Cebu also to digitize the collections of the CHAC, yung Cultural Heritage Association ng Cebu. Now, I think by doing this, we can decongest the foot traffic in our central office, also in line with the restrictions of the DOH. So even if we have these restrictions, I think we can also perform our mandate better. Second, we want also to digitize the collection of our museums so that DepEd students and CHED students need not go to our museums to see our collections. So all they have to do is to walk through in our website and then take a look at what we have in our.
May I just interrupt there? All these years, hindi po nakadigitize ang mga artifacts and all the information in all museums of the NHCP. Wala pa pong database, soft copy, all these years?
Meron po ito, kaya lang hindi po ito available online at kailangan po itong i-format in such a way na parang.
Because I know I've supported documentation.
Yes.
It won't be very difficult to just put it online in a creative manner. Yes, that we commit to, right? To be able to share the physical visits to museums is good, but in this virtual world, it should all be available online.
Yeah, this
In
is.
fact, every agency, I'll get to that later, we should make our national wealth available, visible, understandable online. Yes, but I know that from way back, we have supported the documentation. I think Ino also asked me that way back. I'll get to that later. Oo. Sige.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now, in terms of infra, we will go back again to our restoration projects because for the last 2 or 3 years, we were not able to conduct restoration projects because of the pandemic and we were not given that much funds by the DBM for this. So this year, we want to go back again, particularly in the earthquake damaged areas of Ilocos Norte. Now, as far as commemoration is concerned, we have just finished the commemoration of the 500th anniversary of the victory of the Filipinos in the Battle of Mactan. So the NHCP now is preparing for another milestone commemoration. So this is the 125th anniversary of the Philippine Revolution and the birth of the Philippine Republic. So next year, we will be starting, this will be a 3-year commemoration that will start with the Declaration of Independence in Kawit, and it will end in Palanan, Isabela, when Emilio Aguinaldo will be captured by General Funston. So all those places where the Aguinaldo, the First Republic, had a seat or as a stint will be commemorated by the National Historical Commission in cooperation with the host LGUs of these different places.
Chair, please submit to the committee, if it's not yet part of the presentation, all the existing exhibition sites that you have, the status of soft copies of documentation, both in photos and visuals, which are already uploaded on which digital platform and which need documentation. So ganito po, lahat, sabi mo na, how many museums do you
We
have?
have 27 museums, Madam.
So what we need is Sa 27, how many have been completely documented photos and visuals and digitized, stored properly, and how many have been produced into a virtual tour and available, and which online platform is it uploaded in? Then I will ask the help of the IT of the Senate or even IT specialists so that each whether it's the dance and the ballet, let's say, of cultural center, or it's exhibitions, temporary exhibitions, or permanent exhibitions, or even the documentation of some important archival materials could be available online. So that's what we want to do, and that's what we started doing years ago in my last term. If it's not available in a presentation today, I would request that from you, Paul, so that we will be able, if you agree, and I
Yes, of
think that we should, in this virtual world, we should make our national treasures, all this knowledge available. Thank you.
Yes, madam, wala po dito sa amin nakandang presentation materials, but we will comply with your request. And I instructed already our executive director to attend to this. Now, the next series of slides that we will be presenting will something to do with the budget. As requested by the Secretariat, we will present the appropriations received by the NCCA, by the NHCP, starting year 2019 up to the present. Can I ask my staff to...
Budget po, isubmit na lang ninyo po.
Okay, so yeah, we can skip this now.
Huwag na po niyong basahin yung mga
Okay.
budget.
So-
Kasi po, babasahin po namin, papag-aralan po namin, and we'll be realistic in our appropriation.
Okay, so probably now we can proceed to the last part of my prepared materials. So something to do now with the programs and projects of the NHCP. Wait, yun po munang nasa unahan. So in my hard copy, so I have here some samples of the publications and then the activities that NHCP conducted this year. So we can find here the Journal of Local History and Heritage and the different webinars and workshops that we have conducted. The next page would be the commemorations that we always spearhead. This is the national commemorations, except for regular commemorations, except for the 500th anniversary of the victory of the Filipinos in the Battle of Mactan, which consumed a lot of our time and attention for the last 2 years. We started the kick-off of this in 2018, and we closed it last April 27 with no less than the President gracing the occasion. So, yeah, these are templates already. And the next slide of our presentation material would be something to do with the built heritage that we restored. So we restored already 2 Baroque churches listed in the UNESCO registry, the Santa Maria Church and then the Poway Church. And I am happy, Madam, to report that these 2 churches were not damaged by the earthquake. Now, we also opened already the El Deposito Museum in San Juan. This is the old water reservoir used during the Spanish period. And also the Carino House, where Gabriela Silang lived at certain point of her life. And then the Taal Basilica also. And then the old COA building. This year we are restoring the plazas in Iloilo, the Plaza of Molo, and then the Plaza of Haro, including the Belfry. Now we have also restored some of our local museums, the Aguinaldo Shrine, the Rizal Shrine in Dapitan, and also the Casa Real, and then the Barazoain Church in Malolos, and also the houses of Apasible and Agoncillo in Taal, Batangas.
Chair, are
Yes,
these your regular funds or are these Senate amendments?
Ma'am, lahat po ng infra namin ay coming from insertions from congressmen and senator initiative.
These are, that's why, amendments.
Wala po
Part
kami.
of the regular budget.
It's not part of the NEP. It's not part of the NEP. So far, that's all, ma'am, for NHCP, and thank you.
Thank you very much. You mentioned po that you have hard copy materials on these museums and programs that you've had in the past years. If we have the hard copy, I am certain you have the soft copy. So I would encourage the NHCP to post online your soft copy in your website or any other digital platform because you already have the hard copy. May pinagmulan. So
Okay.
the material is already available. We can simply share it online in a platform that is appropriate for the subject matter. Yes.
Okay po.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Chair Escalante. We proceed now to the Cultural Center of the Philippines, and we acknowledge Dr. Jimmy Laya and Ms. Margie Moran Floyrendo, who between or among our CCP leadership would be able to make the presentation. Margie?
I'll make the presentation and Dr. Laya will support me.
Yes, of course. And we also want to know, of course, in the past years, we have always supported the CCP in terms of the upkeep of your needs. We even had the encyclopedia and all of that, but I am not able to keep track of the congressional initiatives that the amendments have done, but I'm certain that during your time, you would have the staff know that, and all monies that were downloaded should have been implemented by now. No?
Yes, we acknowledge that, Senator, and in fact, it has helped us a lot. And we've been receiving congressional initiatives from 2019 to 2022 from this year. And although we did not use most of it because of the pandemic, it's 2 years pandemic, we are starting to use it again this year. So I'd like to announce also, Senator, that the CCP is closing its doors in January 2023 because we are now renovating the whole building and structurally retrofitting. So we will need more funds than what we expected because we did not expect to move out. And because when they started to open the little theater, they saw that there's structural retrofitting that are needed. So the whole the whole staff are moving out of the building. And for next year,
This is already in the NEP. It's the infrastructure support renovation. If you're moving out in January, is it already in the NEP, in the National Expenditure Program?
it is, but not enough. Because we did not know that we all had to move out all at the same time. Supposed to be in by floor. So yeah. So Dr. Laya will say it in the wish list of what we still need, including the leases that we need to pay for in the moving out. You wanna take over?
Go ahead.
So their funding requests for in our wish list is the RA 11392, which is the National Performing Arts Law, was never funded. It was enacted the act was enacted in 2018, but it's still not funded. It's been denied every year by DBM. And then additional subsidy grant for the resident companies because it's also not granted. The additional funding for artistic programs, and board-initiated special projects. And very importantly, our capital outlay was also declined by DBM, which means these are our IT projects, our storage for digital projects were denied. An additional wish list also is the construction of the Liwasang Amphitheater. Since you won't have the building for 2 years, we have to perform outdoors, outreach, and these theaters in Manila.
Where will you be moving in January?
The rest, the artistic department is moving just in the Design Center Philippines building that's ready already for transfer.
Okay.
the executive office will transfer to Ramon Magsaysay.
Hmm.
And we will be using
So the
net.
transfer has been planned already, the closure has been planned,
Yes.
and everything has been incorporated in the NEP or the president's budget, right? It's not a plan for Congress to fund. It's already funded in the NEP, right?
But what is not funded is the lease that we have to, the leasing part. Because we have to lease the offices in the Ramon Magsaysay building.
Oh, the lease is not yet.
Yeah. It's not included. Only the construction and the rehab are funded.
I see. How long will the rehabilitation of the CCP be?
It's about 2 to 3 years, most
Oh.
likely 3.
Okay, that's major. So 2 to 3 years. And what happens if Congress is not able to fund the transfer of offices?
Not only the transfer of offices, but if the funding for theater leases.
Yes, everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's about 390 million.
Okay. Wow. Mm-mm.
The wish list.
I wonder, has this been presented to the Finance Committee of both houses?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Sige. Well, it's good that we know now. So first, there's an urgent need for the physical rehabilitation of the infrastructure of the cultural center. Is that what we hear?
Yes.
Right? And second, that there's a proposed moving out by January of next year, and you already have various areas where the departments will be moving to, but the lease and transfer have not been incorporated in the NEP.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for advising us. It is not the committee's discretion to
Yeah.
provide, but of course we understand its urgency. And I'm glad that we know it now. Thank you. Please proceed.
Actually, we're moving out in November. We're starting to move out by November, and because we have to close by January 1.
You're moving out in November. That means you have the funds for lease starting November
We will actually use part
of your budget this year.
of the corporate funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sige. Okay, please proceed. Thank you, Mark.
So we have, you want to add to the, yeah, okay.
Madam Senator, I'd like to continue what President Florendo has presented. So as Ms. Florendo has said, unfortunately, the Cultural Center main building will be closed for really 2 to 3 years. Our preliminary target is to, in effect, to move out of the building by January 1, 2023, and to reopen by March 15, 2025. So, unfortunately, it's a long period of closure. But we consider this as an opportunity really to go into other areas. Because so far, unfairly, the cultural center has been viewed as an elitist institution, probably because the building is so magnificent. But right now, as Ms. Florendo has stated, the building is in terrible condition. It's 53 years old, and the ceiling is actually concrete. But the ceiling is leaking in the main lobby. And so the 400 million that is already budgeted is, even a preliminary figure because we don't know what kind of structural defects exist. And so it's quite possible that more than 400 million will be required, but we have no idea what that would be. But as I said, in the meantime, we're taking the opportunity to move into other areas. And we are moving into 5 areas that we have not really, that need to be expanded. The first one is an approach to the youth. Second would be an approach to OFWs. Third would be an approach to the regions and for career development of young artists. And fifth would be the development of the CCP complex in the meantime. Now, with respect to the youth, Madam, the members of the Honorable Committee, the Cultural Center has actually been starting already with what we call Canto Cultura. These are unorganized neighborhood groups that we have been encouraging. We started with Canto Canta, actually. This would be informal neighborhood groups that compose new music but using indigenous instruments. And we have held this already. It has been quite successful. It is already on YouTube, etc. And so actually people have been earning already. The winners have been earning already. We have also addressed the youth through new media. And anime, we are producing an anime film, Lola Basyang, one of the Lola Basyang stories, which will be inaugurated, which will be launched in a few weeks. And this is being done with the College of St. Benilde and the professional companies that do this, and we hope to continue this as something that would appeal to the youth and would be an instrument of teaching values, culture, history, etc.
It's a very good idea to go beyond the confines of the beautiful edifice, but to bring it really closer to the people. I think while it can be perceived as a disadvantage that you have to close, you're not actually closing. I think you're opening.
This is what
Yes,
we
physical closing is an opening to all walks of life, to people, to the world. Yes, I think it's a beautiful problem. Yes, and we fully support that. Continue. I'm just excited about what you're.
Thank you, Senator. Now, in addition to basically looking at popular culture, we want to elevate also the sophistication of our youth, and to introduce them to classical music. So far, the Cultural Center has been sending the PPO to perform concerts in the regions. It's so expensive because these are about 100 people traveling to do just a few concerts. And so what we're thinking of doing is to break up the 100 people into chamber groups, so that the different chamber groups can now perform in more places around the country. And the chamber groups will be maybe about 10 to 15 people playing chamber music. And we plan to do this with normal schools, because normal schools, of course, train future teachers, and by exposing the future teachers to classical music through chamber music, they will, in turn, hopefully, be able to teach the next generation of students and children also to
That's
appreciate.
great. May I ask, Dr. Laya, from the 100 PPO, how many are you're cutting it down so that they can go to other places? How many?
No, we're not cutting them down. We're preserving the entire Philippine Philharmonic
100.
Orchestra, but we're dividing them into groups of maybe 15 people
15 each.
to perform chamber music
Yes, that's what I mean.
in different places
in different
around the
places.
country.
So the 100, if we have the funds, and chamber music can be played by 15, 1-5. Correct, yes. In 2000, maybe 5 years ago, we had in a National Cultural Treasure site in Aninii in Ncca. Beautiful. I brought the whole PPO there with beautiful lights in the facade of the National Cultural Treasure. So that was in collaboration with the CCP and the Nhcp, which restored the church. So here we can see, I'm excited about what you're saying. We can bring the whole PPO and collaborative efforts, not just with agencies of government who are present here, even outside of this committee. I will help you find the venue so you don't spend, and the private sector can even sponsor the places, and with schools, so that it's just exciting. Good, good. So we can do more of that. So let us not be bothered by the imminent closure and rehab, which we will find support for, but bring it really closer to the people. Sige.
Thank
Please
you very much,
proceed.
Senator. So they can perform in different places. They can perform in schools. They can perform in plazas. They can perform in churches, etc. So it really would depend on the place. And we were also thinking in terms of providing counterpart money to LGUs, because LGUs also have cultural funds, and to encourage them to take the initiative in mounting new things, we were thinking of maybe providing a counterpart to whatever they manage to raise. That will also make the funds of the CCP go a little bit further.
That's exactly what we did then. CCP did not pay for the venue. We provided LGU funds and private funds put together in a beautiful place. As I said, the church, Anini Church. And we provided, meaning Ncca, all the needs, the transport, the hospitality of the locals, kung saan binabahay yung mga tao pag overnight kasi malayo. We can even do in protected areas of the country which are accessible as long as the weather cooperates. So marami po. Wag po kami mag-alala, tutulong kami dyan sa mga lugar kung saan yung inyong performing arts, whether PPO or ballet or whichever, or even, whichever kind of performing arts, we will find you the venues for the 3 years that you are physically closed.
Thank you. And so this is the kind of model that we would like to adopt for other places in the country. So hopefully, in addition to Ncca and so on, we can have dozens more of the same, following the same model.
I think they performed also, what was it, President Margie, in Iloilo, Antique, Aklan. Bakit pa puro Region 6? But there were performances outside. Puerto Princesa. Yeah. We can do it in many other places, yes. And I'm sure the LGUs, all they need is the PPO. They will take care of everything. So counterparting. Very good.
Yes. And also, while they are there, the individual musicians can hold master classes to to train local musicians. So the local violinists, etc., would be taught by in effect, the professional violinists who are members of the PPO. So these are some of the things that we're thinking of doing with respect to the youth. Now, on OFWs, okay. Right now, cultural groups performing abroad are basically bands, Filipino bands that play in hotel bars, etc., etc. And it has been pointed out that there might be a need for upgrading that, so that in addition to bands, there would be classical music also. In the same way that at the Peninsula Hotel during Christmas time, di ba, they hold classical music evening, and the entire Peninsula lobby is filled. And so apparently there is a demand for small classical music groups in hotels all over the world that we do not tap. And so we're thinking of pursuing that as an additional OFW related activity. And of course, to Filipino OFWs abroad, we have already existing online programs and so on. And we'd also like to do maybe exhibits of visual arts, paintings, prints, photographs, etc., for the benefit not only of the Filipino community abroad, but also of the expat community. And related to this, we would like to have funds to support participation of Filipino groups in foreign competitions. So that will again upgrade the the Filipino artistic awareness all over the world.
Dr. Laya, could you kindly submit to the committee after this hearing the list of foreign competitions globally and where the Philippines has already participated in, and if we won any, and those existing ongoing which we have not participated in but which you recommend that we support for participation. Just like, again, if I may mention, when I was chair of the Finance Committee, I discovered sa DTI po that there were many fairs, trade fairs of various products that the Filipino excels in, but because of lack of support from government, we did not join. And ask, what's her name, site? Pauline Juan? Is it Pauline Juan? Oh, they were so excited, and we participated in so many fairs, and the Philippine presence was acknowledged and recognized and appreciated there. We should open more doors. Yes, of course, we realize the importance of funding, but tingnan po natin ano ang kayang i-prioritize pong suportahan. Sige, that's exciting.
We're actually following your example, Senator, because your support for Filipino participation in the Venice Biennale is something that we'd like to do in the other the other forms of art, in music, dance, drama, etc. So it's exactly the same path that
We
I would
started
like
that
to
10
follow.
years ago with zero support from government. And up to now, our presence is there. But of course, government now supports it through our annual funding. But we will do so. Just give us a list in the order of priority. And whether our presence is already there, kung wala po, tutulungan po natin.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next one, the next area that we'd like to pursue is to encourage to support the career development of talented Filipinos. Right now, and traditionally, the Cultural Center has been involved in Ncca, the National Music Competition for Young Artists. We are, of course, supporting the Philippine High School for the Arts as well. And then we have the 13 Artists Award for the visual arts every so often. But so far, it stops there. We support Ncca, but after the winners are proclaimed, nothing, there is no support given to them for further career development. And so we'd like to bring them to the next higher level, and we hope to revive the old program that was begun by Mrs. Imelda Marcos actually, wherein talented Filipinos were sent abroad on scholarships for music, like for piano, for singing, etc., etc. So we'd like to go more intensively on that.
I support that, Dr. Laya. That's very important. Meron tayong paligsahan. Nahanap yung magagaling, nanalo sila, tapos bibitawan natin.
Yeah,
Yes, we should,
exactly.
until that they can mentor others. In fact, dapat lumago, di ba po? Oo. Just like our Gamaba awardees of the NCCA, the Likhang-Bayan Awards, they're recognized, but they should never be impoverished. So I'm sure NCCA, I did not ask that, but you have a continuing allowance, it's an honorarium to help them continue their craft, right? Their living traditions of our Likhang-Bayan, our national living treasures. Same with the 13 Artists Awards, same with the Ncca and the other contests, exhibitions where we recognize them, and then we should continue supporting them, joining, broadening their worlds, and them mentoring others who may not have the resources for their skills, their talents. Yeah.
And related to this, actually, there are apparently quite a number of Filipino students who on their own are already studying in Austria, in Germany, in the United States, etc. And so one possibility that we are thinking of is to invite them back to the Philippines for a few months, maybe for a few weeks, so that they can perform here, and in that sense, at least inspire young people here, to also to excel. And related to this, also in career development, we'd like to work more closely with resident companies because the resident companies of the CCP are the ones who employ young artists. And so by working more closely with them, they'd be able to expand their activities and therefore provide employment to the talented young people who are graduates of the High School for the Arts, winners of Ncca, etc. So we're
You
thinking
mentioned-
along this line.
Yes, yes, sorry to cut you, but so that I don't forget. You mentioned about providing master classes. Can we also do this online? Let's use the virtual platform so that the master classes of violins, hindi kailangan pong face-to-face naman, kung saan available at kung saan applicable po. Sige.
Yes, we'll look into that,
Yes.
Madam Senator. So those are some of the career development opportunities, and Ms. Florendo has already described some of the things that we'd like to do within the cultural center complex. Because when the main building is closed, we don't want naman, in effect, for the cultural center complex itself to die for the 2 years. So we're thinking of, there is one area there that is presently planted with trees. It's idle. It's along Rojas Boulevard. And so we're thinking of calling it, maybe the jungle or Angubat or something like that. And then build outdoor amphitheater in the area, maybe an open field where people can, in effect, do various things.
Yes. Remember, remember, was it 10 years ago when one of our foremost installation artists, Jun Yi, had the Angud exhibit in the grounds of the cultural center? Thousands of ang tawag dun, Angud, the head of the illegally cut logs, he had an installation, beautiful, in CCP. And then he donated, the CCP, before your time, donated those Anguds to the DNR. Hinahanap ko, ino-audit ko, nawala na sa Ninoy Aquino Parks and Wildlife. These are works of art. It was donated, supposed to be curated there. Then when I went a couple of years ago, wala na. He was able to save 3. And they're in my office on loan. Here, I will show you the angod, but these were thousands in the big lawn across in front of Cultural Center. So I get what you mean, and I'm excited. Like, while we're waiting for 3 years, we have a whole world out there. We use your tree spark. We use a space in front. When we look for more open spaces for you, for all the performances you want. And you have all the agents. The Intramuros is beautiful. Puerto Real is beautiful. All the Baluartes is beautiful. So much, my hair standing up. This is not a problem. It's a valuable opportunity. Right? Exciting.
So the other thing that we'd like to do, Sana, in the cultural center is to build an elaborate sabungan, because the sabungan would be an open air structure with bleachers on 4 sides with performance possibility in the middle. And this is exactly the design of our 19th century cockpits. Wala namang air conditioning nung araw. So parang, and this is exactly what they do in Bali. Diba? In Bali, they have something like this, and then they perform the ketchak dance, and so we can have exactly the same thing within the CCP grounds, and they would be useful for any type of performance, pwedeng drama, pwedeng concert, etc. And that is one of the structures that we're thinking of doing. And then there is an open field also in the cultural center. And so we were thinking of maybe doing something like what they do at the Boston Pops and at Glyndebourne in the UK. Yung parang there is a concert going on and people are on the grounds having a picnic. that kind of thing. But we would need a kind of a shell for the stage. So these are some of the things that we have in mind. And now the CCP, with the budget allocation that is being planned for us, that is included in the General Appropriations Bill, can support some of this. But unfortunately, for us to be able to do more, we would need additional funding, and we hope that the committee would be able to support our request for, in effect, legislative initiative allocation for to support some of these additional activities. So those are some of our plans, Madam Chair.
The repairs,
We already have about 950 million. Well, so far that's okay for the repairs, the rehab, but we don't.
Budget for retrofitting the cultural center.
950 million.
Actually, we don't know, Madam Senator, because right now the survey is going on, so
Right.
they don't know what will be. We don't know what will be
Parang ang
discovered.
nag-opera niyan pagbukas hindi mo malaman
Oh,
kung anong
exactly.
epekto.
So it could be more, it could be
more.
less than what we have.
Hindi, kasi in the meantime, dun sa 950 million na budget ninyo, ano yung nabigyan na ng pera?
950. 950.
No, of the 950, how much can you actually raise within your own budget as well as other income sources?
No, we have already the 950 million.
You have the entire
Yes,
sum.
but that includes plumbing, big fire protection unit.
Pero yung
Leaks.
950, meron na kayo nun.
Meron na.
So hindi na kayo humihingi ng karagdagan budget dun sa
Well,
2020?
we will ask in 2024 for additional budget for the interiors, to upgrade the
At
interior.
saka na yun. Pero yung 2023,
Okay na
may
yun.
hinihingi ba kayong additional? Kasi papasok tayo ng budget season in a week.
Ang additional namin is actually our moving out leasing theaters.
The leasing. And what about
And the capex.
And what about the structural requirements? Kasi 'di ba kahit outdoor 'yan, mga kailangan pa rin ng pera.
Yeah,
Meron na
that's
kayo
also
budget?
part of what we're asking for in outdoor requirements. So we will, because we have about 850 programs for the whole year.
I'm really only half joking when I say you call it an isolation or quarantine center or an evacuation center because there really is no money on the ground. So we have to get really creative here. Hindi, tinatanong ko lang, ano yung karagdagan na kinakailangan ninyo for the
So,
cultural center?
About 390 million.
Sige, maybe you can give us the required para malay mo makachamba.
Yes.
Sabay dasal eh.
And actually, the renovation retrofitting will take place over 2 to 3 years. So in addition to 2023, we would be asking for 2024 and 2025, depending on what is discovered.
Yes.
so we will be able to ascertain the exact required funding after the ocular of our engineers and architects to find out what's really needed. In the meantime, we support you in your programs moving forward for outdoor performances, for collaboration with the private sector, with local governments, and with other agencies of government. We have so much space. We have so much unused edifices where your art can be performed, and we will help you with that.
Some are going to actually to the National Museum.
Yes, yes.
Our visual arts.
Ang dami, yeah. Anyway, we also take note of your suggestions to support not just the winning artists when they're awarded, but in their mentoring of others and even in their own careers afterwards. Yeah. So provide us the list so that we can see and provide more scholarships for our young Filipinos who are talented but maybe indigent, or maybe not indigent but don't know where to go and where to ask for resources. Mm-mm. Yes.
Share one,
Yes, Senator Marcos.
tatanong lang ako sa ako.
What suggests for a legislative agenda to designate the PPO as the state orchestra, and providing its own funding. So they're all government employees, and it does not, the funding does not include training, musical instruments, and their own staffing.
They're government employees, plantilla,
Mhm.
under CCP.
Under CCP. And yet, because there are other orchestras, and there is also a law on the national performing arts, which can also include an orchestra to be in the national level, but that will degrade PPO. It's a Performing Arts Act.
We take note of that.
Yeah.
Ms. Margie, Senator Marcos, you were asking
Yes,
something.
I was just going to make another suggestion. While we're, of course, in full support of your COVID-proof outdoor plans, may I suggest that you ratchet up your digital and online presence as well? I think you covered that earlier. Pero a quick review of your online assets reveals that it's very unfriendly and you're stuck at 20,000 viewers. That really is miserable. I think you need to push it a little bit. As we know, that was the way of COVID. All the theaters managed that way somehow, as well as many of the concert halls. So sana pag-igihan natin yung digital kasi malaking bagay yun pati dun sa comics na binabanggit yung Lola Basyang. As we all know, the graphic novels online are the way of the present as well as the future. And nobody's really printing very much anymore.
Hear you introducing an amendment in the budget, which you will author and we will support, so that for the digitization of all the art forms of the agencies present here. I hear you and I second the motion.
I think it's most important that we put online all these assets, including live exhibitions, concert shows, literature, e-libraries, archives, and so on. Mahalaga po yun kasi talagang hirap na tayo. Sa kabila ng pagiging front-loaded, ang gastos sa umpisa, pagkatapos na na-upload na lahat yun, mabilis na. Mabilis na yung ating pagpapalaki at pagpapalaganap ng mga online assets. But right now, at 20,000, Madam Chair, I think there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Agree, and we fully support that. And that's why earlier we asked for them to give us the database of everything that is uploaded online and those which are not. Kaya nga, kailangan i-digitize at i-upload sa appropriate na platform. Yeah. Thank you very much. Cultural Center of the Philippines, yes.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I'm tempted to say my favorite, but every agency is my favorite. Kaya wala na lang. But we're happy, excited to listen to the National Museum of the Philippines. Thank you very much, Dr. Laya and Ms. Margie Florendo.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Senator Legarda. Good morning, Senator Padilla. It's a pleasure to encounter you for the first time. And of course, Senator Amy Marcos. Good morning, ma'am. And to the senators online, such as Senator Bongo. Good morning. Thank you, Senator Legarda. It's really wonderful to see you back in the Senate and to be before you again in this Congress, representing the National Museum, which you have been instrumental in strengthening for so many years. I'll just ask my PowerPoint to be put on the screen, please, Secretariat. Thank you. So next page, please. It's a fairly comprehensive PowerPoint. I'll go through the mandate and organization for the benefit of those senators present who might not be so familiar. I'll talk about our funding levels.
Sorry,
Oh,
Jeremy.
all right.
Dr. Barnes, we have a soft copy of all of this.
Yes, ma'am.
We have the time to read that. Let's proceed
All right.
to
If
the
I
plans and programs.
yes, next please.
Thank you.
Yes, let's stop at the slide of the map, please. Yes, this, yeah. What, previous slide, and then previous to that, yeah. Yung previous slide, please. Yeah. This is a good jumping off point, just to reinforce the fact that we have, in addition to our central museums here, quite widespread national network around the country. We're among the agencies with the most regional presence, which, of course, accounts for a lot of our operations and work around the country.
How many do you have?
We have 18, ma'am, and two under development, meaning Cebu and Davao cities. Yeah, and so those will actually, the infrastructure will be completed for both this year, and we will put them into operation next year. But as you can see, we're literally from Batanes in the north to Jolo in the south, and from Tabon Cave in the west to Butuan in the east. Next, please. So funding levels, if the senators might note, since 2019, we're hovering around the 500 to 700 million peso level for total budget. Every year, though, we always are allocated zero capital outlay in the NEP. And so all the capital outlay that we've enjoyed for many years now has been through congressional augmentations. And our proposal for next year is no different. But for instance, this year we're implementing a general appropriations budget of 681 million pesos. Next, please. Yes, so this year 681, last year 554.
Okay.
2020, after the Bayanihan Act, 451.
Okay.
So quite solid appropriations. We'd like to get it back up to the NEP for next year, back up to something like this year's total budget. But we're also proposing for quite large capital outlays in order to launch a few critical projects. Next, please. So the next slides are just our targets. So when we talk of our plans and programs, of course, these are all quantified. So we have plans in order to achieve targets to increase number of visitors, the quality of their visits, the quality of how they perceive we look after our collections and exhibitions, and as well as increasing the opportunities for accessibility by the public. And then, so there are a couple more indicators that will increase the number of trainings, increase the number of published research and presentations in conferences, and so on and so forth. So these are the actual...
Dr. Barnes, Jeremy.
Yes.
Of the 18, same question I asked the Nhcp, how many are already online with virtual tours? I know that we have
Yes.
the Hibla ng Lahing Filipino, which is just a segment of the whole National Museum here. How many of our museums already have virtual presence?
10 out of the 18. It's a gradual program. All of our central museums, fine arts, anthropology, natural history, are fully virtual. Then certain of our regional museums, Ilocos in Vigan, Marinduque in Buac, and a few others are also fully online. The smaller ones, Kiangan in Ifugao. And then we're
Are they
proceeding.
friendly? Are they digital friendly? What do you call it? Is it easy to access? User friendly?
We've had very good feedback. These are the kind of thing where you can wander through the gallery, and then on every work of art or artifact and text in the gallery you can click. You can like make pindot, and then that will blow up, and you can read it, or you can have a closer look at it. Sometimes you can rotate it.
Madam Chair, yes, if I may, yes, Mr. Barnes, I'd just like to inquire, how many visitors do you have online for the National Museum Main?
Online. Can we go to the slide with the social media statistics, please? Yeah.
It's not social media, just your virtual tour.
For the virtual tours, I don't have those statistics with me.
Because that's the most important.
Yeah.
That's what is actually an educational tool. So that's important for us to understand. The other query is, why are your virtual tours of limited exhibition? Parang may deadline. Laging may deadline, maikli. Bakit hindi tuloy-tuloy? Dapat online siya parate para ma-access ng elementary.
Oh, I'm not aware of that, Senator.
So when
Everything.
you upload it, tuloy-tuloy.
Yes, well, yeah,
It's looking kasi, ang nakita ko, maliwanag na humihinto at a certain date. From this date to this date. Parang physical exhibit. Ba't ganun?
I will have to check, ma'am. I'm not aware of that. When we upload something, it's my understanding that it's a permanent feature of our website.
Yes. I was told kasi that they were no longer able to access after a certain date, certain exhibitions in the past. And of course, our students are very keen to use these as
Sure.
educational facilities. So, pansinin lang natin konti dahil talagang ginagamit ng iba eh.
Yes, ma'am. And also it's our understanding that when we upload something, that's a permanent feature. When we upload online publication, that's a permanent resource.
Yes, the publications, but not the virtual tours.
All right, ma'am.
The virtual tours seem to be of limited screening, and very limited also are the viewers. So perhaps that's where we need to work harder in conjunction with the DepEd and the CHED.
Well taken, ma'am. I'm a bit, caught by surprise at your finding. We'll rectify that because it really is the intention to have that always on our website precisely nga po for the students. Yeah, that was our commitment. It's a collaboration with the DepEd, of course. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for that. If I may continue, next slides, please. Yeah, so we just have statistics on the number of exhibitions that we've also had over the last years. The next slide you might find interesting because we're quite serious about our social media, our presence on social media. So we try to be very active in managing our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Dapat kasi student access yan, kaya relative to our enrollment of what is it now, how many million registered, it should somehow reflect your visitors, no, to the social media sites.
Yes, po.
So clearly, we have not aligned very effectively with the DepEd or with the other institutions making a stab at remote learning.
Yes.
Mahal na tagapangulo.
Thank you, Senator Marco. We recognize Senator Padilla.
Meron lang po akong iduduktong din dun po sa sinabi ng ating mahal na pangalawang tagapangulo sapagkat parang may kaugnayan din po kasi dito ang mga ibang departamento katulad ng sa DOT, ano?
Intramuros.
Opo, Intramuros, yung parks, lahat ng may kinalaman sa turismo. Sana, hindi po ba, ba't wala po sila dito? Opo.
Very good question. Tatanungin ko sa committee secretary, in fact yun ang sinabi ko sa staff ko, sana kasama ang Intramuros Administration and National Parks as well na dati kong hinihir nung sa pangatlo kong termino. Pero sa pagkabuo ng ating bagong komite ay hindi kasama yan. Kasi sana kasama ang Intramuros Administration under the Tourism
DOT.
Oo, under Tourism Committee, right? Ang IA. Where's my committee secretary, Mr. Tunak? Dito po kayo. Oo. So yung katanungan po ni Senator Padilla, ang Intramuros Administration sa ilalim ng Tourism Committee, right? Tama ba ho?
Oo, I think it's under Nancy together with
Yes, and Parks is under Tourism also, correct? And the Philippine High School for the Arts,
Sa education naman.
Nhcp.
oh,
DCP.
yeah. Okay, the Film Development Council is under DTI. That's another senator who's chairing that. Both parks and Intramuros administration are under tourism. That's Senator Binay, who's my vice chair here. And Design Center is under DTI.
High School for the Arts is
High School for the
DepEd.
Arts under education.
Yes.
Dapat sa inyo yun. Kasi arts eh. Kasi.
Kasi po, bagong organisa ang culture and the arts. And I would leave it. That's under Office of the President. So that's the way it's organized. But nothing will stop us from inviting agencies of government. So good suggestion. Ito yung mga na-under muna sa atin. Bago lang tayo, infancy, di ba? Pero papatawagin natin yung mga may kaugnayan sa culture and the arts at sa mga venue, for example, na kailangan ng CCP, tatawagin natin ang Parks at Intramuros Administration para, tulungan nyo ito. So ito muna yung ating core group, and then the cultural related but not under our committee, pwede natin patawag din. Yan. Thank you for that manifestation, Senator Padilla. And thank you for your for noticing the importance, stressing the importance of our digital presence of all agencies, Senator Marcos.
It's good to ask, no? Because we've been talking about infrastructure. Jeremy has no capital outlay at all. And naging kapatas na rin si Margie sa CCP. Ang DPWH ba tumutulong sa inyo? Kasi upgraded ang kanilang capacity ngayon eh.
Madam Senator, no. Unless a project is specifically earmarked for the National Museum as end user, we don't receive any funds from DPWH.
No, it's not funding. It's actually technical know-how because they're actually embarking following the disasters that hit the north and the heritage zones. They're actually embarking on assessing all the structural engineering of various buildings. So I was wondering if they could also help you and even the CCP in these times of very tight fiscal space. Perhaps it's time we share our resources.
Yes, Senator, when it comes to technical assistance, we occasionally, not all the time, avail of their structural engineers. That's precisely the area where, we do seek their assistance, depending on the complexity of the project. Yeah.
And structural analysis, even for the CCP, is very, very expensive and this time consuming. So perhaps you can tap the resources as well.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Senator Padilla.
Meron lang din po sana akong gustong itanong. Po, sa pahintulot po ng pangalawang tagapangulo, okay lang po ba?
Proceed po.
Okay. Sir,
Yes, sir.
ito po tanong lang, kasi ako po kasi ay mahilig mag-travel. Pag ako po ay naglalakbay, ang una kong pinupuntahan sa kahit anong bansa ay museum. Pupunta ka sa cultural center. Meron po bang ugnayan ang museo ng Pilipinas sa DOT? Meron po bang pag-uusap yan na katulad sa ibang bansa, paglapag mo pa lang ang ibibigay sa yung brochure, museum. Meron po bang ganong pag-uusap ang DOT at kayo?
Thank you for the question, sir. Yes, even though legally we're of the DepEd family, we spend actually just as much time converging with the DOT family. As you noted, sir, we're surrounded by DOT operations, Rizal Park, sa Intramuros, and in the regions we are often the leading tourist attraction. Like we have the Ncca ruins in Albay, or and so on and so forth, or the Tabon Caves, we're the leading attraction in southern Palawan. So on the operational level, we talk to each other very, very often, and we have close relationship with since all the secretaries I can remember since Ace Durano.
Sir, gaano po ka close? Kasi sana sana yung
Yeah.
pagbenta nila ng National Museum at ng Cultural Center, parehas din ng pagbenta nila sa Boracay, yung gano'n. Diba?
Okay.
Ang pagbenta kasi, puro party-party eh. Hindi kaya dapat ang benta din, kultura natin, yung gano'n ba?
All right. To be perfectly frank, it could be better, but they definitely keep us in mind. So sa mga regional promotions, we're often there. Sa national promotions, NCCA, National Museum usually appear.
Sige po, ako to, pangako ko po sa inyo, pag nag-budget hearing,
Sige.
questionin ko yung mga yan. Bakit ba masyado kayong pabor sa mga party-party, hindi sa kultura?
Yes,
Sige
sir.
po, salamat po.
But if I just may, I'll just point out, sir, na the governing board of the National Museum, our board of trustees, si Secretary of Tourism ay isang ex officio member, together with Secretary of Education. And
Opo, naintindihan ko po. Pero kasi talagang ano po eh, hindi kayo yung primary eh.
Sure, yeah.
Doon lang sa lagi nilang parapatalastas, makikita mo kagad dagat, yung mga ganun eh. Kasi alam niyo po, napakaganda ng kultura. Alam naman po
Yes,
natin, napakayaman ng ating kultura. My goodness gracious.
Yes, absolutely, sir. Yeah.
Kaya nga po, sa mga nakaraang taon, kundi dekada, ang suporta ng binibigay ng inyong lingkod at ng Senado, ng Kongreso sa kanila ay hanggat kaya. Ang mga pagtatag ng museo, ang pagtatag ng ating mga schools of living tradition na suporta hindi lamang sa struktura, kundi na rin sa pag-uusbong ng mga kultura ng mga sinaunang henerasyon at mga katutubo. Hanggang sa kabundukan, sa mga mandaya, sa Region 11, hanggang sa Cordillera, marami. At dati pa, dinadala pa natin sa National Museum ang ating mga weavers, mga tiboli, iba-iba, para rin makita ng mga tao first hand. Hanggang sa mga sama weavers ng Sibuto, ng Tawi-Tawi, na first time nakasagay ng eroplano, dinala natin ang mga mat weavers sa National Museum. So, we try, but of course, we would appreciate more support for cultural tourism, which can be both tangible and intangible. Yeah.
Nga po,
Thank you.
mahal
Salamat
na.
sa inyong
Opo.
intervensyon.
Kasi mahal na tagapangulo, sa Asia lang po, sa Southeast Asia lang, kung ibebenta natin talaga yung ating kultura sa kanila. Punta dito yan eh, kasi talaga eh, tayo yung naging pag pinag-usapan natin lang ang Austronesian languages, tayo yung unang tinamaan yan eh, kaya talagang ang ganda pong i-promote. Opo.
Salamat at meron tayong kakampi na bagamat bago sa Senado ay hindi na bago sa kultura. Kung tutulungan nyo kami sa pag-promote sa online presence ay malaking bagay dahil kailangan natin ng tulong doon. Salamat.
Maraming salamat po.
Dr. Barnes? No. Jerry.
Just Mr. Barnes. I'm not a doctor.
Barnes, sorry.
Thank you.
I was
Meron na po isang tanong, sorry po, Madam Chair, isa na lang. Ano alot niyo po si Eric Barnes? Nabiro lang po.
Okay, Jeremy,
Thank you,
continue.
sir.
Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair, it's really wonderful to hear the sentiments of Senator Padilla. Because as I, yeah. If I could ask the operator, in the interest of time, can we skip, please, to slide 53? I included a lot of images about what we've been doing, but as Madam Chair pointed out, the soft copy is available. Slide 53, straight to our last slides. So what we're concerned with now and moving forward is continuous implementation of our new charter, Republic Act 11333, which was approved in 2019 in the 17th Congress. It's a transformative law, organizationally, operationally, strategically. It gives us a roadmap for the next 20 years. So we're really trying to implement that, first of all, by strengthening our operations that are provided for under the law, filling expanded staffing pattern, which is also rationalized at the same time. To operationalize our 4 museum regions that the law established, which namely Northern Luzon Cordillera, Southern Luzon, Mimaropa, Visayas, and Mindanao. So it's really to institutionalize our regionalization. We're also focusing the second bullet on enhancing our central complex in Rizal Park, which the law also focuses on, as well as the third bullet, our regional museums. We're mandated to have at least 1 regional museum per region. We're about 2/3 of the way through that mandate. But we're committed to within the next 5 or so years to launching a museum project in the remaining regions, mostly in Eastern Visayas and in some of the Mindanao regions. And to bring to a successful conclusion our ongoing infrastructure projects in Cebu City and Davao City. Now, challenges, the challenges we face, of course, to increase our capacity administratively, operationally, to build our human resources. There's only, in certain aspects of our museum operations, there's not a whole lot of qualified persons out there. So many of the cultural institutions, government and private, were kind of chasing after the same people, trying to bring them on board. People like restorers, conservators, very hard to find. Also, to build up our collections, we're focusing on sourcing them from other agencies in the government to try to consolidate art collections, archaeological artifacts under the National Museum. Those agencies specifically that have no mandate for maintaining collections. And then when we've done that we can then go to the private sector and acquire from the private sector with more confidence, no? and rationale. And then we would, corollary to that, we would like to build a policy initiative. We're working with the new administration that supports our strategic plans across the public sector. And I think this holds true for many of the other agencies present here today. Next slide. My next slide is my
Jeremy, we don't have a Baguio City National Museum yet.
No, ma'am. Actually, my last slide, previous slide, please. Yeah. My last slide focuses on what we are proposing in terms of new projects.
Supported the Museo Cordillera, that's in University of the Philippines.
That's the UP Baguio Museum.
It's the UP Baguio.
So you would have a location already for the Baguio Museum?
Yes, we were recently, all of us at the NCCA family in Baguio.
Very good.
Magkaisa.
Very good.
We
Chair, why can't they help the UP effort?
Yes, absolutely. But I was going to say, ma'am, talking with Mayor Magalong, he identified a site in Session Road, the old post office, that he would like the National Museum to adopt and to convert into some galleries. We don't want to compete with the existing museums, Museo Cordillera, the City Museum, and others. What we feel our value added is not necessarily being a museum of the Cordillera, but to bring to the Cordilleran audience our collections from all over the country. Because Baguio is a major educational center, I think
Yeah, sure.
I think we can serve our audience by bringing things to Baguio and not just establishing another museum where we show bulul and artifacts of Ifugao and Benguet and so on. So we're definitely approaching this, Senator Marcos, in a way that's complementary.
No, I think what I'm trying to emphasize is that there's very little money for food and medicine right now. So culture will likely be the last priority, sadly. So given that reality, I am hopeful that we can pool our resources. In Baguio, in particular, there are certain museums being run not only by government, but also by the private sector. There's a distinguished Ncca Museum.
Exactly,
We're
absolutely.
also aware that St. Louis has its own archives and collections, and so on and so forth. And I think nothing prohibits us from coordinating and working with them.
No, absolutely. All those museums that you mentioned, ma'am, we're friends with people associated with them. And that's precisely, it's like what we want to do is, if we're going to establish a presence or devote our resources to Baguio, we should come in a way that helps everyone who's already there, and bring what only the National Museum could bring to the table, as it were.
Actually, ang kailangan ng Baguio, Modern Art Museum. Napakarami
Yes.
nilang IP artists.
Exactly.
Na napakagagaling. Wala namang gallery space. At yun talaga ang kailangan nila kung tutuusin. As you said, meron ng kanya-kanyang bulol na napakakukonte. Walang sinabi tungkol sa Branly, halimbawa, sa Paris, o di kaya sa Amsterdam. Ngunit dun sa Baguio, talagang walang gallery yung mga bagong artista natin.
Yes.
Walang performing space, walang gallery, walang maski ano na training.
Yes.
Pero napakagagaling. So perhaps you were saying the National Museum can bring something new.
Yes.
I don't know if that's squarely in your mandate, but in terms of needs and wants, yun ang top of the list.
Yes. There's also, Madam Senator, if I may, our idea that as we've been able to grow our collection, we can start spreading it out a little bit more in the regions. We're asking ourselves, if you're in Lawag po, and you want to see what an Amorsolo painting looks like, where do you go? Surely you don't have to go all the way. You shouldn't have to go all the way to Manila to see an Amorsolo or a Hoya or a Luna.
Hindi, ang gusto namin Luna eh.
Yes.
Amin yun eh.
Yeah. And so we kind of want to spread into the regions great works by leading artists, past and present, so that people in the regions know why an artist is a national artist, why Luna is so great, why Hidalgo is so great. Like in Cebu, if you want to see a Manansala, where do you go? Maybe there's no accessible Manansala in the whole of Cebu City. So those are the things that we're saying, okay, we've developed over the years to an extent where we can start not keeping everything in Manila in the main art museum, but to spread it out a little bit better, to make sure our facilities in the regions can feasibly house this securely. And so
We laud your efforts in the National Museum to spread the cultural riches around. Siguro we have to keep in view the interest of each region as well.
Yes.
Until today, we have no agricultural museum, no fisheries museum. Certainly, this would gather way more viewership than some of our so-called art history and so on. I think there should also be some recognition of our regional and language bias. Clearly, the Ilocanos will be interested in Vitalis and in Luna. And clearly, the Tagalogs will be more interested in the Tagalog artists and so on and so forth. So if we keep that in view, not only the subject, but also the artist concerned, I think our regional efforts will be much more relevant and well attended.
Absolutely, ma'am. So it's like a double track approach. Highlight what's very significant and noteworthy in the region, and then bring that knowledge among regions, so that at the same time, everyone who travels, let's say, to Ilocos knows the things they should about Ilocano cultural heritage, artistic heritage. At the same time, we educate.
Do we have a war museum? Just curious. When I ran the tourism program in Ilocania, there are many war or military buffs who are always looking for World War II museum. I think that's really in place for Tacloban, for example, because it's always recorded as the largest naval battle in history.
Yes.
Pero wala naman maipakita.
Yes, with the permission of my friend Chair Escalante, it's something that we discuss from time to time at NHCP. Because between our work with objects and artifacts and history for NHCP, the war, we realize there's a demand and a gap.
Madali kasi ang benta nun eh. Sa
Opo.
totoo lang.
Yeah.
Ang dami-daming Amerikano, Japanese, at iba pa. Talagang naghahanap.
Yeah.
Medyo World War II junkie sila eh.
Yeah, we talk of Corregidor, we talk of the other battlefield shrines, but to answer your question, it's still PVAL.
Meron po tayo, madam, sa
Yeah, there's only those military shrines with the museum component under PVAL.
Yes, but the museum component is very much a token tag on, right?
Yeah.
Ang realidad, there's no military museum, but there's a huge market for that. I think agriculture also in Central Luzon would be most important. Until today, I haven't seen any plans for that.
Right.
I'm also curious, which brings us to another topic, that these museums need to become interactive. Ang laging sinasabi ng kabataan sa akin, so much to see po, nothing to do. So I think we need to find them stuff to do so that they are engaged, that they participate, and that they commit to the preservation of heritage in a more real and permanent way.
Those are excellent comments and insights. Thank you, Senator. Yeah. Lots of food for thought there. Yes. Yeah. No, that's quite a statement. No, there's so much to see, nothing to do. Yeah. We'll take that away with us and have a big think about that. Right. Well, I'm ready to end my presentation, except I could take any more questions, but
Mahal na pangalawang tagapangulo. Meron lang po akong gustong tanungin, pero hindi ko po alam kung sino ang pwedeng sumagot. Baka po din kayo, pwede. Meron po kasing pangyayari sa buhay ko na minsan pumunta ako sa isang auction. Kasi nilagay nila sa dyaryo na ino-auction nila yung isang sulat ni Andres Bonifacio. Eh ako po kasi ay isang katipunero. Pumunta ako doon sa auction. Ang mga kasama kong bumibili, walang tiga-gobyerno. Ang bumibili doon, puro, nagtataka ako. Gusto ko ngang agawin doon sa private na tao na nakabili kasi kako baka ano lang gawin niya ron. Gusto ko talagang kunin, kaya lang hindi kaya ng budget ko eh. Mahal eh, 10 milyon ma'am eh. Oo, hanggang 5 million lang ang kaya natin ng panahon na yun. Nabili ng ibang tao. Bakit po ganun? Ano po kaya ang dahilan? Wala po bang budget ang gobyerno pambili?
Well, yeah, yes, wala hong budget pangbili. Plus walang rule na hindi naman pwede i-buy and sell yung mga historical artifacts na to. It's perfectly legal to buy and sell them. What is regulated, sir, is perhaps their permanent export from the country. Pero kung dito lang sa Pilipinas, one collector is selling and another local collector is buying, and it stays in the Philippines, there's no law against that. But government cannot compete because of the lack of resources. What is regulated, potentially, sir, under existing laws, is yung pang...
hindi nila pwedeng ganun sa labas.
Yeah, in certain cases.
Hindi kaya pwedeng ano yun, Madam Chair? Hindi kaya po pwedeng, halimbawa, nabili ng private, pero i-display nila sa National Museum. Pwede ba yung ganun?
Ginagawa naman.
Yes.
Oo.
Kailangan totoo, tama si Binoy, na talagang kung napakahalaga o napaka-critical nitong cultural asset na to, sabihin natin sulat ni Andres Bonifacio, talagang importante, it cannot go to private hands sana. Sana dapat may ganun, ano? If it's so significant, so pivotal in the career of the artist, or it is significant in the history of the Philippines, may ganun meron talaga Kinakailangan mauna ang pamahalaan sa presyong kaya. Kahit bayaran na overtime at wag mapunta sa private collection.
Ito po
Good
sana.
idea din yun
Opo, sana po. Kasi napakahalaga. Sayang.
ang malupit Binoy, pati yung archive dati, ninanakawan pa
It's possible to craft a bill to this effect.
Can you, I'm glad you mentioned about legislation because this is not a budget hearing alone and programs, but also crafting policies and legislation to protect
Yes.
your mandate and our wealth as a nation.
It would probably, if we adopt the French approach, the concerned agency or the Ministry of Culture would declare a certain object of national importance. And then the government has the right to match the price.
Okay. Pwede kayo mag-draft, tignan natin.
Yeah.
Madam
Sige.
Chair, I think because I accused him of getting robbed, wants to talk for the archive. Kasi
Director Manalo.
Ayan dinudukot pa nga yung mga Jose Rizal.
Okay, Director
Kaya nga
Manalo.
ngayon po hindi na po namin pinahihintulutan ng gamitin ng original records, no? Pwedeng tugon din yan sa concern ni Senator Padilla na pwede naman i-digitize yung object, yung record. At pwede na, hindi kailangan na nasa ating kamay talaga ng gobyerno yung liham mismo, pero yung informasyon pwede pong i-scan at i-share, no? At yung katulad ng latest Paterno auction, I suggested to the NHCP na sumulat sila at magtanong kung pwedeng i-digitize or maghingi ng copy ng mga records.
Yeah, thank you
Pero
for that.
I think nasulatan sila ni Chairman.
Which brings me to my query on the Ulmer collection of the Rizal furniture from Germany. Has it arrived in the Philippines? Dumating na sa NHCP.
Nasa Rizal Museum po natin sa Port Santiago.
Nakahanap na kayo ng lugar at
Yep. Naka-display na po
siya,
kami.
naka-display na.
Naka-display
Okay.
na po.
Nakita ko po ito nung pre-pandemic, 2019, at nandun pa sa konsulado sa Frankfurt, at sabi nila ang recipient na government agency ay NHCP, not National Museum, right? They were looking actually for a place, and finally it arrived in the Philippines despite the pandemic. And you already found a place. Wala na pong naiwan. Alam ko yung kama, cabinet o writing table nasa konsulado.
Yung mesa lang po kung saan sinulat na Rizal yung El Filibustrismo.
Nandito.
Ang nandito sa atin.
Hindi, so nandun pa yung iba. Marami pong, hindi lang pong mesa, merong kama, may cabinet, marami pa po Ulmer collection. So, I'm glad I audited that. We have the list of the donations of Dr. Ulmer, who is the grandson of the pastor who took in Dr. Jose Rizal in Wilhelmsfeld, in near Frankfurt, near Heidelberg, when he was studying ophthalmology. So nandito lang po yung table. Nasaan yung iba? Hala! Uy! Ay, hindi. Sorry. Hindi na-stress lang ako kasi kala ko nandito na kasi po nung pinuntahan ko doon, kasama ko po si Dr. Ulmer. Nakita ko po at nandun pa raw sa kanyang bahay, matanda na siya, gusto na niyang ibigay. And he told me pre-pandemic that it was on its way to the NHCP, I'm not sure nga, because I'm asking, or National Museum. And then I saw some pieces in the PCG in Frankfurt. That was 2018 or 19. So it's been 3 years. Where is it? We have to find out. May I request Dr. Escalante to find out, Rico Garcia, find out from your wife, who was the Consul General in Frankfurt. I hope Dr. Ulmer is still alive because there was a donation made by the Ulmer family. Yes.
Buhay pa po siya, madam. Siya po. Kasama po
Okay.
namin sa turnover.
Yes, that was 3 or 4 years ago. Marami po yung donation po, hindi lang po writing table ni Rizal. Lahat nung ginamit niya sa Germany. Thank you. biglang napa-audit yung mga donasyon. Sige, after Jeremy, we go to the
Senator, I stand corrected. Nandito po pala sa amin.
Ikaw naman.
Yun lang palang mesa ang prominently displayed.
Nalipat na
We
rito.
are just thinking of having the other items in Calamba or in Dapitan. We have 3 museums for Rizal.
Sana isang lugar magkakasama dahil I leave it to the historians and the curators, but this came from one family. I even went to the house which they owned where Rizal lived in less than a year. And these are all in one house. So, hihiwalay-hiwalay nyo. Pupunta pa kami Dapitan. Hindi pwede sa Fort Santiago lahat. Kung may lugar kayo. Walang lugar. Why not National Museum? Hindi ba pwedeng mag-MOA kayo? Can you have a Rizal room? Because the collection of Dr. Jose Rizal, the collection of Dr. Jose Rizal of textiles and the salakot that he donated to the founder of the Berlin Ethnological Museum, which I've been working on for 10 years. It's finally coming home before 2025.
Yeah, we can work on that again, ma'am. Yeah.
Si Dr. Nakluat pangalan, 10 taong nagawa.
We can work on that again, ma'am, in Berlin, because they opened the new museum.
Dr. Nicholas Platz. Ayan.
Platz.
Sino si Nicholas Platz? Roland Platz, yung curator ng Berlin Ethno noon. Hindi ko na alam. That's all pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So two things. The Ulmer collection, please give us a list of what you already have, Nhcp. We will audit with what I know was donated to make sure a desk or even a pen was not sidelined along the way. And could we kindly request that within the year that it is appropriately installed in a physical exhibition space na hindi po nakatambak. Sayang po, oo. Pangalawa, maari siguro kung may lugar ang National Museum, mag-MOA kayo kung wala kayong exhibition spaces, a Rizal room. Because, as I said, the textile collection of Dr. Rizal since 2012 has been long pending, and the Germans already agreed, the Berlin Ethno Museum. They just transferred before pandemic to their new site. That's why they could not release on loan to the National Museum. But could you take off from
Yeah,
there?
they opened their new museum this year earlier.
That's why they will only land it after they open their new museum.
Yes,
So
yeah.
could I ask Jeremy and Mr. Legazpi to take off from that? We have all the documentation from 10 years of our meetings with the Berlin Ethnological Museum. And this is just a little story. I promise it will be short. Dr. Jose Rizal's, one of his best friends, became the founder of the Berlin Ethnological Museum. And in the late 1800s, he gave textiles like the things we wear, like the ikat and all of that. He gave pinya and ikat to, what is the name? To Adolf Bastian, who eventually became I'm telling the story to Robin Padilla. Senator Padilla is not listening. Sige, hindi, nabibiro. So he gave nagbigay ng regalo si Dr. Jose Rizal ng mga sinaunang tela ng Pilipinas kay Adolf Bastian, isang Aleman, nung late 1800s, na siya ang nagbukas ng kauna-unahang Berlin Ethnological Museum na nandun ang ating mga textiles na koleksyon ni Dr. Jose Rizal na iuuwi natin sa National Museum. Yun.
natin?
Oo, yes, may pinya at meron din mga ikat at iba-ibang mga woven fabrics. Yun lang. Sige, hindi pala lang yun. So, yung Ulmer Collection at yung Berlin Ethno Textile Collection, yun National Museum.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sige.
It's exactly the right time to start it off again.
Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, you may go. Museum.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just taking questions.
Oh, sige.
But there's a lot that I didn't show,
Give
but
us-
it's in the soft copy, ma'am.
Yeah, you give us a soft copy. I'm being warned that there are 3-4 more agencies. Haba ng mga hearing natin. Kasi 3 taon tayo din nagkita, di ba? O, sige. Okay. KWF. Are we serving lunch? Magpakain naman kayo. Sige, okay.
Isang
Dr.
mapagpalang
Casanova.
araw po sa ating lahat. Galang-galang na tagapangulo ng Committee on Culture and the Arts. Kagalang-galang na senador. Yan nakasama ko rin sa isang pelikula. Dati po akong taga-pelikula. Nais ko pong magsimula dito sa apat na nakalista. Una po ay ang mandato ng ahensya ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino. Ang mandato po ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino ay magsagawa ng mga pananaliksik, magsagawa ng preserbasyon, pangalagaan ang ating mga wika at palaganapin ang mga ito at nakafocus po sa ating wikang pambansang Filipino at sa mga katutubong wika sa ating bansa. Ito po ang sentro ng ating paglilingkod. Ang pagpapalaganap po ng ating wikang pambansa ay mahalaga sapagkat ito po ang lunduyan ng pagkakaunawaan ng bawat Pilipino sapagkat meron po tayong 130 mga wikain sa ating bansa at kailangan po natin ng isang pambansang wika na lalagay po sa atin sa pagkakaisa at pag-uunawaan ng bawat Pilipino. Binibigyan halaga ko at binibigyan diin ko po dito ang pagpapalaganap at pangangalaga po ng hindi lamang ng wikang Filipino kundi ng mga iba't ibang katutubong wika sa ating bansa. Gusto ko lang sana po mabilisan lamang, hindi naman to budget hearing. Maya, pwede ba natin i-flash yung aming budget simula ng 2019 hanggang 2023? Mabilisan lang. Dito po sa budget na ito, mula 2019 hanggang 2023, pwede ba yung malakihan? Ay medyo malaki po nung 2019, okay? At malaki po ito dahil nakapasok po sa budget ng 2019 ang pagtatayo ng gusali ng KWF na sana po ay itatayo sa campus ng Universidad ng Pilipinas. Ngunit hindi po ito natuloy dahil po hindi nagkasundo sa tinatawag na pagrerenta sa campus ng Universidad ng Pilipinas. At ito po ay may budget na 80 milyon noong 2019. At ako po ay nagsimula na manungkulan bilang tagapangulo ng Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino noong 2020 at nung nakaraang 2021, ang 80 milyon na ito po ay amin pong ibinigay sa Bayanihan Act. Okay. Kung makikita nyo sa budget dito, bumaba po ang aming budget ng 2020 hanggang sa kasalukuyan at lalo pa hong bumaba para sa taong 2023. Dito po makikita natin ang budget na 74,345 noong para po sa 2023 at siyempre po may mga kahilingan kami dahil po nung nakaraang taon meron po tayong 22 milyon, no? Nais ko lang po sanang bigyan diin ang mga proyekto, okay, at mga programa ng Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino. Unang-una po, meron po kaming 4 na pangunahing sangay o dibisyon sa aming Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino. Una po ay tinatawag nating sangay sa salin. Ito pong aming flagship program. Ang sangay sa salin po ay nagsasagawa ng mga pagsasalin na batay po sa kahilingan ng iba't ibang mga ahensyang pampamahalaan. At dito po ay karaniwan na ang mga LGU po ay humihiling na ang kanilang mga chapter po ay salin sa wikang Filipino. At siyempre mas maganda po sana kung ang aming sangay sa salin ay medyo madagdagan ang mga kawani dahil sa kasalukuyan ay mga 6 lamang po ang aming kawani sa sangay ng salin. At ang naroon po ay isang Cebuano at lahat na po ay Tagalog. So medyo weirdo po, no, na ang sangay sa salin ay isa lamang ang kinakatawang wika dahil ideally po sana po ang lahat ng mga pangunahing wika mula po sa Ilocano, Pangasinan, Kapampangan, Bicol, Tagalog, Hiligaynon, Waray, Cebuano at mga cluster ng mga wika ng mga Muslim na katulad po ng Maranao, Maguindanao na Tausog ay dapat po ay meron pong tauhan na marunong maalam po sa ganoong mga wika nang sa ganoon po ang mga dokumento na nasa wikang Ingles ay madaling maisasalin sa iba't ibang mga katutubong wika, partikular sa mga pangunahing wika. Ngunit yun po ang kailangan namin na madagdagan po sana ang mga kawani para po sa sangay na ito o division na ito. At ako po ay natutuwa ng ating pong senador na si kagalang-galang Robin Padilla ay narinig naman po natin at nabalitaan natin. Siya po ay sumusuporta sa pagsasalin ng mga dokumento sa atin pong wikang Filipino. Kasi po maganda po na balanse po ang atin pong mga dokumento sa mga wikang Filipino at Ingles dahil ito po ay nakasaad naman po sa ating saligang batas ng ating mga opisyal na wika po ay wikang Filipino at Ingles. Gayunpaman, tulad na nabanggit ko kanina, mahalaga po na marami tayong tagasalin sa iba't ibang katutubong wika dahil po ang mandato ng Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino ay pangalagaan po at palaganapin hindi lamang ating wikang pambansang Filipino kundi maging ng mga katutubong wika sa ating bansa. At meron po tayong 130 mga wikain sa ating bansa. Yan po ang bilang ng Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino. Bagamat ang UP, ang SIL o Summer Institute of Linguistics ay may kanilang bilang po sila. Ang amin pong bilang ng mga wika sa ating bansa ay nababatay po sa census at census 2010 pa ho yan. At inaasahan po namin na sa paglabas po ng census 2020 ay madaragdagan po ang bilang na yan na aming iuulat sa inyo. Batay po dito sa ating mga wika pati, mayroon po kaming sangay ng tinatawag natin na salita at gramatika na nagsasakatuparan po ng tinatawag nating Language Revitalization Program. At ang sangay pong ito ang nangangasiwa ng paglikha ng mga ortografiya ng iba't ibang mga katutubong wika. At sa bilang po ng mga ortografiya, ito po yung may kinalaman po sa mga tuntunin ng palabaybayan upang maging estandardisado po ang baybay ng ating mga manunulat, mga mag-aaral at mga guro at mga mananaliksik ay kailangan pong mailatag, maisagawa ng pananaliksik, mailimbag po ang ortografiya ng bawat wika. Sa kasalukuyan po ay hindi pa ganoon kalaki ang bilang ng ating mga ortografiya dahil kapag walang ortografiya ang isang wika, hindi po tayo makapagdidimbag ng mga sangguniang aklat sa wikang iyon, batayang aklat sa wikang iyon, ng mga babasahin sa mga katutubong wika. Kung kaya't ngayon po sa kasalukuyan ay meron po tayong mga listahan ng mga katutubong wika po natin na nagawa na po ng ortografiya dahil nais ko lang iparating sa inyo na ang pananaliksik hinggil po sa ortografiya o mga tuntunin sa palabaybayan o spelling ay isa pong malaking proyekto dahil ito po yung nangangailangan ng tinatawag nating immersion o pagsawsaw sa komunidad kung saan sinasalita po ang mga katutubong wika. At yan po palagi ang problema dahil ang isang wika na kailangan gawan at pag-aralan ang ortografiya ay nangangailangan ng pagkalaki-laking pera dahil nangangailangan po ito ng pagpunta ng mga kawani, ng mga mananaliksik doon sa mga kultural na pamayanan kung saan sinasalita ang isang partikular na wika. At ito po ay nangangailangan ng mahabang panahon, mahabang budget, maraming mga kawani upang maisakatuparan ang magpapalimbag ng ating mga ortografiya. Sa kasalukuyan po, meron po tayong mga ortografiya na nabuo na at nalimbag na at ilan po rito ay sa pakipagtulungan po ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon at ng Summer Institute of Linguistics at ito po ay mga sumusunod. No? Siyempre nangunguna po yung Tagalog na may maraming mga tinatawag nating variety o tinatawag na dialekto. meron po tayong Bicol, Kapampangan, Pangasinan, Ilocano, Waray, Kinamayu, Itawit, Malawig, Kalanguya, Ibaloy, Kangkanai, Gadang, Paranan, Yoga, Diligaynon, Cebuanong, Binisaya at Buenen. Alright? Mga nagawa ang DepEd arm sa pakikipagtulungan ng KWF. Kasama po rito ang mga wika, ortografiyang Maranao, Maguindanaon, Yakan, Sinama, Tiduray, Inanon, Bahasasug, at sa kasalukuyan sa taong 2022 ay isinasakatuparan po namin ang pagbubuo ng ortografiya ng mga sumusunod. Bisakol o Waray Sorsogon, Rinconada, Agta Bugkalot, Higaunon, Aita Mugbukon, at yan po ang aming mga isinasakatuparan. At sana po ay magkaroon kami ng pagkakataon na mapabilis at maparami po ang mga pananaliksik na ito dahil tulad ng nabanggit ko ay 130 wika meron tayo at kailangan po ng mga kakabataan ito, ng mga mag-aaral, ng mga guro, ng mga mananaliksik, ang mga manunulat upang maging gabay po sa kanilang pagsulat at siyempre po ay kailangan po yan ng malaking budget, no? Medyo limitado po ang budget natin at maging ang mga kawani ng sangay sa salita at gramatika ay kokonti rin po ang tauhan. Meron lamang po silang 6 hanggang 7 mga tauhan at maya't maya po ay kailangan ay hatiin ang mga kawani upang ang iba po ay mapunta sa iba't ibang kultural na pamayanan upang isakatuparan ang pag-aaral at panaliksik ng mga ortografiya ng isang bawat kultural na pamayanan. Bukod pa po doon, ang language revitalization program ng sangay sa salita at gramatika ay may tinatawag pong bahay wika. Ang KWA po ay nagtatayo ng mga bahay wika sa mga pamayanan na kung saan ang isang wika ay malapit na hong maglaho o mamatay. Dahil may mga wika po tayo, mga 11 po hanggang 15 mga wika ang nanganganib na pong maglaho at ito po ay kailangan pong iligtas natin sa tuluyang pagkalaho o pagkamatay ang ilang mga wika. Nung nakaraang taon po, meron po kaming bahay wika sa Bataan na pinag-aralan po ang wikang Magbukon, ano po? At sa itong taong na ito ay amin pong sinusulong ang pagpunta sa Aurora upang magsagawa ng isang bahay wika doon para na naman po sa isang wika na malapit na maglaho sa Aurora. At sa susunod po ay tinatarget namin ang Kabisayaan at higit sa lahat sa Mindanao kasi po mukhang napapabayaan ang Mindanao, no? Dahil ako po ay 15 taon sa Mindanao State University bilang isang scholar at isang profesor, nangangailangan po ng pagbibigay ng pansin sa mga wika at kultura ng Visayas at ng Mindanao dahil palagi na lamang po ang reklamo ng mga taga-Visayas at Mindanao na ang mga pag-aaral at mga pananaliksik ay nakasentro lamang po sa Luzon. Kaya mahalaga po, no? At dito po ay meron din po kami na tinatawag na yung pagbuo at pagsulat, paglilimbag ng mga diksyonaryo. Isa pong direksyon ng aking pamamahala bilang tagapangulo ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino, simula nang ako po ay umupo, ay maglimbag ng iba't ibang mga diksyonaryo dahil ito po ang magsisilbing parang Biblia ng bawat katutubong wika. At nung ako po ay umupo, napansin ko po na ang diksyonaryo ay noong pong 1998 pa ho at kailangan ng revision kaya ito po ay sinasakatuparan malapit na pong matapos, pinakikinis na, pero meron na ho kaming online na diksyonaryo ng wikang Filipino online at tinatapos na rin po namin ang bilingual na diksyonaryong Filipino-English at ito po ay dumaraan lamang sa pagpapakinis at inaasahan po namin sa unang quarter po ng 2023 ay mailalabas po namin ang limbag na anyo ng 2 diksyonaryong ng wikang Filipino at diksyonaryong Filipino-English. Alright? At alam niyo po,
Dr. Casanova,
nung nakaraan po ay meron na
Casanova.
kaming disyonaryo ng Maranao, Tagalog, Ingles. Ito po ay ginagawa na rin po ngayon, idilimbag na rin po ang Hiligaynon, Tagalog, Ingles at ang Cebuano, Tagalog, Ingles na diksyonaryo, at inaasahan po namin na masusunod na taon ay makakapaglimbag pa po tayo ng iba't ibang mga wika katulad po ng Ilocano, Kapampangan, Bicol, Waray, meron tayong Miranao, Maguindanao, Tausug, sana at Sinama ay magawa na rin po. Pero mahalaga po. Ay, may tanong po ba? Sensya na po.
Hindi,
Umira lang aking pagkaguro.
hindi, tama lang po. Gusto ko lang po malaman maliban sa Pilipino po. Ano po ang mga lengguwahe na ating may mga programa? Nabanggit naman nyo. Tama yung tuloy-tuloy lang kayo parang tren. Hindi, tama po yun. Tama po yun. Hindi, kasi nabasa nyo yung itatanong ko. Oo, okay lang po yun. Tuloy lang po.
Okay, so maraming po tayong ginagawang sa iba't ibang katutubong. Isa po sa mahalagang proyekto ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino ay tinatawag na Bantayog Wika. Hindi po lingid sa kaalaman ito ng ating kagalang-galang na Senador Loren Legarda dahil siya po ang nagpasimuno nito at nung nakaraang mga taon pa po ito isinakatuparan. At sa aking pong paglilingkod bilang tagapangulo ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino ay ginusto ko at kasalukuyang pinagpapatuloy namin ang Bantayog Wika. Ang problema lang po kasi, ang pagpapatuloy po ng Bantayog Wika ay medyo may problema kami dahil wala po kaming budget. Ang amin pong mga inilunsad ng mga Bantayog Wika ay sa sumusunod nitong 2 nakaraang taon. Naglunsad po kami ng Bantayog Wika sa Pasig, sa Lake Buhi, sa Nueva Vizcaya, sa Quirino, at sa taong ito naka-schedule po sana ang paglulunsad ng Bantayog Wika sa lungsod ng Marawi, sa loob po ng campus ng Mindanao State University, sa Leyte po, sa Tanawan, Leyte, sa Aurora, at inaasahan din po namin sa Butuan. Ang problema po ay medyo natigil po ang pagpapatakbo at pagpapasakatuparan ng Bantayog Wika na iniluluhog ko po sa ating kagalang-galang na Senador Loren Legarda dahil siya po ang brain, ang may utak nito. Siya po nagpasimuno nito kung kaya't nangangailangan po kami ng suporta kay kagalang-galang na Senador Loren Legarda. Tulad din ng manggit ko kanina, kung babalikan ko po ang sangay sa salin, ay kailangan din po namin ang tulong ng ating kagalang-galang na Senador Robin Padilla sapagkat alam po natin na ito po ay talagang sinusuportahan niya at sana po ay pagsakatuparan pa kami ng maraming pagsasalin, ngunit kailangan po namin sana ng mas malaking budget dahil kailangan po namin ng mas maraming mga kawani na magsasalin ng mga dokumento, mga papeles at iba pa. No? Sa kasalukuyan po, karaniwan namin sinasalin ang mga charter ng iba't ibang LGU. At nais ko rin sanang ipabatid sa inyo na sana po yung 80 milyon na aming ibinigay sa Bayanihan na Act noong 2020 ay maibigay po muli para makapagpatayo po ang Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino ng isang gusali dahil kung 80 milyon ito noong 2019, palagay ko ay madadagdagan ito ng mga 30%. Marahil ay ito. Kasi alam po naman natin lahat ng mga bagay ngayon ay nagmamahalan, nagtaasan mga presyo, ano po. Kaya natutuwa po ako na binigyan ako ng pagkakataon ngayong umaga na maipahayag sa inyo ang ilang mga pangangailangan para sa episyente, epektibong pamamahala at pagpapatakbo po ng aming mga proyekto at mga plano sa Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino. At bukod pa po doon sa nabanggit ko, ang atin pong atlas ng mga wika sa Pilipinas ay amin pong nire-revisa dahil nagbago na po ang bilang ng mga wika simula nang ito ay nailimbag At dito po sa bagong atlas ng wika ay tinitignan po namin ang yung tinatawag nating estandardisadong baybay ng mga pangalan ng mga wika dahil may kanya-kanyang konsepto po ang mga lingwista at mga taga-wika kung paano babaybayin ang mga wika at maging yung mga pangalan ng mga lalawigan na alam naman natin na noong unang panahon ay nagkaroon po ng mga pagbabago sa baybay ng ilang mga pangalan ng mga lalawigan, ng mga lungsod at maging mga pangalan ng mga wika. Halimbawa po, ang Davao may panahon po na binaybay ng DABAW. Davao, ano po? At marami pong mga ganyang kaso at siyempre po, ang dapat po nating gamitin ay yung katanggap-tanggap at ginagamit ng mga taong gumagamit ng wikang partikular. So, yan po sana ay mabigyan ng pansin ng committee na ito. At tulad po ng aking nabanggit kanina ay marami po tayong mga proyekto na sana po ay masuportahan ng Committee on Culture and the Arts at siyempre po may kinalaman palagi po yan sa budget. At nais ko rin iparating sa inyo para sa episyente at mabisang pangangasiwa po ng aming ahensya. Nung ako ay umupo, ang amin pong mga part-time commissioner ay mga nasa holdover capacity. At yung mga yun ay 3 taon ko nang hinihiling na sana po ay mapalitan na at hanggang sa kasalukuyan ay nasa holdover capacity pa rin ang 8 sa aming mga commissioner na para po sa epektibong pamamahala ay nais po namin sanang iparating sa inyo na kung sana po ay maitalaga na, okay, ang mga bagong commissioners na kakatawan sa iba't ibang katutubong wika sa ating bansa. Kasi meron pong 11 mga commissioner ang ating kalupunan o board. Ang 3 po ay mga full-time commissioner at ang 3 full-time commissioner po sa kasalukuyan ay mga appointees po ni Pangulong Duterte. Ngunit yung 8 nalalabi ay matagal na hong holdover na sana po ay mapalitan na nang sa ganoon ay magkaroon ng representasyon ang bawat pangunahing wika sa ating bansa. Kasi po, 3 taon nang walang representasyon ang 3 pangunahing wika, pagkatapos ang iba pa po ay mga holdover capacity. Sa ngayon, yan lamang po ang gusto kong iparating sa inyo na sana po ang komite na ito sa larang ng kultura at mga sining ay makatulong po. Okay? Sa Bisaya pa, tabangi in town me. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po. Habang wala po ang ating magandang tagapangulo, ako muna po ay makikipagtalas-tasan sa inyo. Ginoong Dr. Arthur Casanova. Talagang yung Casanova po ay marami ding alamat yan Tanong ko lang po, yung patungkol po doon sa sinasabi nyo, ang komisyon po nyo ay nasa ilalim ng
Opisina ng Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas.
Direkta. Bakit po kaya wala pang naitatalagang mga commissioner?
Hindi ko po alam. Pero ako po ay
mahirap yan.
lumiham na po ako ng
dating Pangulong Duterte. Ngayon po, nakaliham na.
Nagpapadala ulit ako ng liham para po sa line-up ng mga commissioner para po sa kalupunan.
Kanino niyo po in-address yan? Kay Executive Secretary?
Meron po kaming sulat na in-address po kay Executive Secretary Victor Rodriguez.
Ayun. Ano po ba ang gusto niyo hakbang? Palitan lahat yun.
Hindi rin po ba akong magpadala sa inyo?
Bagamat wala po akong kapangyarihan dyan, ipadala niyo rin po ako. At baka sakaling doon po sa ating magandang pangalawang tagapangulo ay maibigay po natin. Bigyan niyo po ako, bigyan niyo. Pero ang gusto ko lang pong malaman, papapalitan niyo lahat.
Ano po?
Papapalitan niyo lahat yung commissioner niyo.
Sa ngayon po ay 10 ang gusto kong palitan. Ay,
Dahil po,
yung 8 po, yung 6 po kasi ay hold over. Yung 3 po kasi ay talagang bakante ngayon.
Opo, opo.
2 taon at kalahati.
pwede po bang malaman kung sino po ba yung mga, hindi pa kayo kailangan magbigay ng pangalan. Lalagyan niyo po ng bawat marunong sa wika niya. May Pilipino, may Taga, ganun po ba?
Opo, opo.
May Maranao, may ganun. Napakaganda po nun. Sana magawa po ninyo at susuportahan ko po kayo.
Ipadadala po namin ang liham.
Sige po.
Ang aking pong mga endorsement o pag-iindoso ng mga pangalan.
Opo. Sige po.
Sa Lunes po, padadala ko. Pwede ho bang dalhin ko sa opisina nyo?
Opo. Mas maganda po. Mas maganda po yung ugnayan natin dahil pareho po tayo ng advokasya.
Okay.
Dahil
po tayo ng larang na pinasukan dahil dati rin po ako taga-pelikula.
Opo. Kaya po pala para kayong nagpe-perform kanina eh. Talagang ang galing. Maraming salamat po, Doktor.
Kasama tayo isang pelikula sa Baguio. Nag-shooting tayo sa Baguio kasama si Pina Morales.
Nako, patay. Yung Casanova, bumalik na sa atin. Opo. Maraming salamat po, Doktor. Opo.
Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataong ito na ako'y marinig ninyo at maihain ko ang aming mga plano at mga proyekto sa mga susunod na taon. Maraming salamat. Daghang salamat.
Mabuhay po, Doktor. Ma'am Comsec, Ma'am Basir. Sir Comsec, wala pa yung ating mahal na tagapangulo. Pwede na ba natin ituloy?
Yes, po. Yes, sir.
Opo, ituloy na po natin. Sino po yung susunod na mag-present? Si Dr. Hindi. Dr. Mapa Manalo. Sir, mabuhay po. Kami po yung sa archives. Yung nananakawan, sabi. Opo, sino ba
Noon po yun. Ngayon,
hindi na po ngayon. Opo.
hindi na, bawal na po yung mag-handle ang publiko ng original records. Lahat naka-digitize na.
Okay po. Pwede na po kayo mag-umpisa habang inaantay po natin ng ating tagapangulo.
Yung presentation po. Sige. Kaya nga. Naayos na kanina, kumain lang kasi.
Why don't you just move to the other side,
Bibilisan ko lang po kasi napapansin ko na aantok na yung mga kasama ko.
Ano lang po yan, Ginoo. Talagang masarap pong medyo mag-relax-relax pagkatas kumain.
Pero,
Kayo po ba yung nakakain na?
ng konti po.
Okay po.
Pero
Parang hindi. Kape.
Pero wala namang problema kasi hindi naman po kayo nasama ko sa isang pelikula. Never naman.
Sige po,
Wala
sige
akong
po.
kwento tungkol doon. Okay. Kami po ay, ito po yung pinakabalangkas ng aking presentasyon. Yung pinaka-mandate namin, kami po ay nagawa ng RA 9470 at siguro ang main point lang dito na bigyan din natin ay wala pong record na pwedeng itapon ng isang ahensya na walang pahintulot mula sa panbansang sinupan ng Pilipinas. Kami yon. Kami po ay kambal ang aming mga function. Kami ay may kinalaman sa governance o sa pamamahala ng bawat ahensya. Kasi nga kami ang tagapangasiwa ng records, no? Kami nagbibigay ng guidelines tungkol sa records. Sorry po, Senator. Do I continue? Oh, thank you. Pero at the same time, meron din kaming function na kultural, no? Kaya kami kasama sa Ncca. Ito po kasi nga kami ang tagatago ng memory of the Philippines, no? Through the archival records of the Philippines. Apparently we share that with the National Historical Commission. And next slide. So ito po yung annual funds namin noon. Makita mo naman bumaba. Pero mapapansin nyo na yung 2020, to 2023, kargada po yun, kargada po dyan ang aming funds para sa construction, para sa aming headquarters sa Intendensya. Kaya po, ang totoo na difference between 2022 and 2023 ay 5 million pesos lang po at yan po ay 2.8%. Can we go next slide? Sige pa, isa pa. And then next slide again. Okay, so ang mga gawain po namin ay basically technical assistance. Gusto ko lang linawin dito, no? Kami po ay, ang kaibahan namin sa ibang cultural agencies, kami po ay nag-service ng every single government agency in the Philippines, all the way from departments to all the way down to water districts. So in fact, we're very grossly undermanned for this task, no? Kasi nga, we have to work with every government agency para ayusin yung kanilang yung kanilang mga records, no? So nagbibigay kami ng technical assistance, pero gumagawa din kami ng mga local community archives. And one of the first local community archives that we worked with was in Ncca, in Ncca. Remember, Madam Senator, remember we worked on the Ncca community archives, no? So that's one of our programs as well. Next, please. In terms of archives of administration, we have long been working on what the president called for, which was digitization and digitalization. Iba po ang digitization sa digitalization. Ang digitization is the act of digitizing physical records to electronic records, no? The transformation. Digitalization is the entire agency shift to support using electronic records. So the entire the systemic change, the procedural change, yung pagpalit ng buong patakaran, yan po ang digitalization. Digitization is just a simple act of reformatting. Bukod doon, meron kaming program for records. Mababasa niyo naman ang ibang program doon. Gusto lang bigyan din na we're working also on records recovery. No, kasi nakita namin na yun talagang nasisira pag nagkakaroon ng bagyo, nasisira ang mga records. So gumawa na po kami ng guidelines not only for preservation and recovery but also from prevention, na paano hindi magkaroon ng disaster. Paano kayo hindi maapektuhan pag may disaster. Simple lang doon, huwag kayong mag-build sa isang lugar na prone sa disaster. What's one of our ideas. Tapos meron din kami ng image bank, papaabot ko sa Nhcp, na meron na kaming maaari na kung makakita ng maraming images sa websites namin for na historical photographs, no, for every decade. Okay. Ngayon, pero gumagawa din kami ng policy. Next slide. At kasama na diyan ang electronic records policy under the jurisdiction of the National Archives. Kami po ang naggagawa ng patakaran ng pamahahala ng mga records na electronic. And of course, disaster prevention. We also came up with guidelines, but also like health guidelines and digitization guidelines. Recently, nagbigay po kami ng copy ng digitization guidelines namin sa Malacanang. At natutuwa kami na binasa ito ng Presidente at tinalakay niya nang kami ay nagkita a few days ago. Ngayon, meron na kaming ang aming talagang pinaka-challenge, Madam Senator, is that we have an expansion program. Next, please. We are trying to expand our reach. Kasi imagine, every single government agency we need to service. And we're trying to follow at least the level of Thailand, that has 10 National Archives branches all over Thailand. And we, unlike us, we only have 2, no? Dalawa lang yung ating mga branches. So hopefully we will be able to expand, and of course that will need state-of-the-art facilities and additional plantilla. Next slide. But our biggest challenge, Madam Senator, is that we are working on our finishing our headquarters in Intramuros. This is the Intendencia building that we had discussed with you very early on in your last term. And we're happy to say that with the help of the NHCP as our to guide us and to supervise, we are now in finishing up and entering into our second phase. So this was not funded this year, and we are hoping to get funding for that. So these are our challenges. We still need, next slide please. We still need to upgrade most of our services, no, na kailangan maging state of the art. We can only service today a fraction of the nation. Ang dami pa namin kailangan maayos o mapuntahan in our 81 provinces or so, no? Tapos kailangan natin palakihin ang mga opisina namin, pagandahin ang facilities at mag-hire ng personnel. And of course, we need a permanent headquarters with a certain stature and historical background as befits a national archives. To achieve all of this, next slide, we are working now on NARMA, the National Archives and Records Management Authority. We're putting in a new law, which I hope you can help us with, that to upgrade the National Archives into a national authority on records, no, and expanding its reach, so hindi kami masyadong ine-etchapuera. Okay, so these are funding priorities. The restoration of the archives, we will be needing. We requested for 400 million. We were given no million. No, and we are also refurbishing our Mindanao archives. We were fortunate that during the pandemic nakabili po kami ng 2 building. Ngayon kailangan namin i-replan ito at ayusin sa Mindanao para hindi sabihin na nini-neglect natin ang Mindanao. And of course, hahabol din ng Cebu archives. We just talked to the governor a few days ago, the other day, and she mentioned na baka pwede daw mabigyan kami ng lupa at building na lang yung aming hingin, no? So yan din ang kailangan namin i-pursue. Pero siyempre ang pinakauna namin na proyekto talaga ay yun pa rin ang intendensya, na yun na nga nangangailangan kami ngayon ng 400 million for 2023. No? So that these two are, the other two, number one is the intendensya, pero yung sunod dun ay mga planning, is basically planning for the new centers before it's built, no? So yun lang po.
Just one question before we proceed to the National Library. How much of the archives are already on database digitized?
There are 2 sections of the National Archives in the Spanish records, no? For section 2, it's completely, that's about 40% is completely digitized, and parts of it are already online. But and that is why we no longer allow for the use of original records, for against theft and for preservation. But the first section, about maybe 20% are digitized, and we are still every year we continue
How long will it
digitization.
take to digitize all our archives?
We are looking at about 5 years.
Is it safe?
What do you mean by
Safekeeping? It's under
yes?
the
Well,
safe against the elements?
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Though it's in our temporary headquarters, which is on Guazon Street, but we really need to bring it to their final place,
The 5
which
years
is in the
because of the lack of funding support or the manpower to digitize?
basically manpower. We will need to expand it, and also because there's only so much that they can do. No?
Understood. Thank you, Manalo, Director Manalo. We proceed to Mr. Adriano of the National Library.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
After National Library, we have UNESCO online. No. Okay, maybe they can just submit Yes, so this is the last agency, right? Oh, okay, thank you. And we appreciate that the other agencies are still present.
Yeah.
Thank you. It would also good to hear each other so that we'll know. Thank you.
Madam, I just wanted to say thank you very, especially to the CCP for, they were the first to present it together with NHCP, but they stayed for us. No, thank you.
See the National Library. And of course, as I said earlier, all the support staff and all the deputy directors and heads, the presence will be recorded physically, and those who are virtually also supporting. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair. As the last agency to present, I promise it's not as long as Director Casanova. I will try to make it 5 minutes, Madam Chair. But let me first congratulate you, Madam Chair, for successfully winning the last election. And we are happy that you are back with us. May backer na naman kami ulit sa mga budget namin. And Madam Chair, just to refresh, the first time I came here, I stepped in this building, it was you as our sponsored sa bill, sa aming mga budget, and I told you that you are so beautiful in person. After 5 years, Madam Chair, nothing has changed. Madam Chair,
I am no longer the chair of the Finance Committee, so
Madam Chair, to make my presentation short, I will start with a video. It is a 3-minute video of the accomplishments of the National Library for the past years. Lang audio.
share the video with the other agencies. Maybe you can share the video with the other agencies so we can watch it after the presentation. Yes, you can proceed if you have technical trouble. Thank you, Mr. Adriano. This is a video of what you've accomplished since 2019, correct? Oh, you can just share it with us. No, ibig sabihin, i-share mo na lang sa amin because so that we take advantage of the physical presence of your team, right? That's okay. We appreciate the effort of doing a video presentation of, in fact, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
First, you share it with us. Second, we would ask every agency, of course, may I also remind the NCCA that there were funding that were given pre-pandemic, which are not yet fully accomplished up to 2022. I think you downloaded it to a group that was supposed to implement it, but during pandemic, hindi pa na-implement. May mga weaving centers. There are pending utilization of funds from 2018 and 2019. So that's a good example of accomplishment through video, and you share it with the committee as well as the members, but you can proceed with the other parts of your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair. But I just like to highlight, Madam Chair, that our National Library building is 100 retrofitted already. That is part of the video. We installed the gas-based fire suppression system, 50% of it, and the CCTV. Everything na tulong yun na budget sa amin, Madam Chair, during your time sa Senate ka, na-implement na po. And then, Jen, we'll go directly to the budget. I know, Madam Chair, this is not a budget hearing, but all the agencies already mentioned their wish list, and it's just fair to mention also the National Library. Our plan for next year, Madam Chair, these are all unfunded because the building is already retrofitted. We are focusing now on the interior designs. And now, Madam Chair, there is a certain floor in our building which we want to have our conservation laboratory because as of now, part ng mandate namin ng National Library is to conserve and preserve, but we don't have a conservation area. So that's our plan. And next, we are also planning for the development of our permanent gallery because right now our most treasured collections are always are housed in a vault, Madam Chair. Pag meron lang okasyon, saka lang namin nilalatag para ma-view ng public. But we want na is available siya so that magkakaroon kami ng permanent gallery kung saan nandun na lahat yung mga priceless collection ng ating pambansang aklatan. So unfunded din yan, Madam Chair. Next slide. This is the and I think the final phase of our gas base. Ito yung naumpisa ng Madam Chair, yung hiningi namin nabigay mo yung first phase, and then Senator Pia gave us the second phase. Ito na yung natira. Medyo malaki siya kasi yung bagong itong chemical na ginagamit, Madam Chair, na pag buo siya, wala talagang mababasang gamit. So dry siya. So safe siya for papel, lalo na ang collection ng National Library ay hindi po pwedeng tubig yung magiging fire suppression. So, yun, Madam Chair, kasi yun nga, focus na namin yung interior ng National Library. We also plan to have a children's services modernization. This is the cost, Madam Chair, yung high-tech na siya, yung may mga visual na siya, Madam Chair, for our children na pagbisita nila, the state of the art yung target natin dito, and this is also unfunded, Madam Chair. But the area, we are all available. Yun na lang, hindi, Madam Chair. So that's all for the National Library. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the presence of each and every agency under the Committee on Culture and the Arts. While it would have been simply an organizational meeting, but it went far more than that, and we truly appreciate your presentation of your plans, programs, budgets, challenges, and how you can collaborate with each other, especially with the challenges of retrofitting structures. We will also go beyond the 8 agencies under the committee and invite other agencies of government who have bigger resources that you can also utilize. I would appreciate receiving not just budgetary needs, but also policies, legislative proposals, programs that can be supported, like mentorship, scholarships, and if I were to be given the chance, I would support your budgetary needs as I have done since before. I do not make promises, but we have listened to you and know your needs. I would suggest that you also send it to Senator Angara, the chair of the Finance Committee, and I think it's Senator Cayetano who's the vice chair of your agencies as well. Yes, and being the chair of the Standing Committee, of course, we will review all of that and make our own recommendations. I would ask any of you who have not yet spoken or those who have also spoken, if you want to have some closing statements or anything that you failed to mention or comments, I would be happy to listen. But we are way beyond our lunch time, but we will listen to Jeremy. Yes.
I was just going to ask, Madam Senator, if you wanted to solicit our comments on the various bills listed here for today, or if we're going to have another meeting on the bills. Yeah.
There are more than 10 measures, and soliciting the verbal solicitation now would take so much time.
Yeah, sure.
But we only put on record now the bills. I would request the agencies for the next hearing, but to submit to us your comments on the bills. But there are other bills pertaining to culture which are not under the culture and arts. As we said, yung iba nasa ibang ahensya, but related to culture, we'll have to sort it out.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. And so first, your comments on measures already filed and already referred to the committee. I think what I mentioned were just those referred to the committee, no? May mga pending pang na-file, hindi pa na reference of business. And I said there are bills which may have been referred to other committees. We see how they converge with our committee. Yes.
Yeah, Madam Senator, yeah, I just want to bring to your attention that there's a proposed bill, I think, to abolish the travel tax. We will appreciate if you can oppose it because it will affect NCCA's operations because we're getting the Ncca from that tax. So, pag nangyari po yun, I think it will kill a lot of our projects. Thank you.
So the Ncca comes from the
Yeah, this is our share from
Yes.
from the travel tax so that we will not be so dependent on GA.
I see. So the Ncca source will be totally abolished. Okay, it's good that you mentioned that. I'm not sure if the measure is in maybe Ways and Means Committee or Tourism Committee, but I'm glad that you mentioned that. Are there other concerns?
Well, ma'am, I was going to work with your office on a bill. I think it's a problem that also NCCA wants to tackle about customs duties when we bring in exhibition objects. I think even returning objects like the things we send to Venice or
Taxed.
when they come back, well, we have to demonstrate to customs that they came from here, they were only abroad for a certain amount of time, and then they're being repatriated. I think we can streamline the process.
Yes, we would appreciate knowing, because remember, our participation in overseas exhibitions only came recently. So we cannot blame maybe the finance department and customs
Yeah.
that they may not be accustomed to returning artworks.
Like an example, ma'am, is Kidlat Tahimik's exhibit in Madrid. Was received quite a lot of publicity. So he was shipping them back, and yun nga po, it turned out that it was fairly smooth with customs, but it was a 50-50 thing. He was very stressed about it, and
Yes.
NCCA and us were working to. Because we could probably streamline that by making it more explicit that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please
So
give
we'll,
me,
we'll try to draft some language and
Yes.
propose it.
just give me bullets. We'll do it in the legislative language that we know. We would appreciate it.
And then also things, just the last point on that topic. When we import things from other countries, like there's a lot of Filipiniana in Europe, in the US, if we're just loaning them, we come under the 6-month trade exhibition kind of rule for exemption from customs duties. But if we're loaning something for a year, customs wants to levy duties on things for exhibit. It's iba naman kung they're being donated and coming in that way. But if they're just on loan, they fall under the same category as like importing things for the mga trade shows, dyan sa World Trade Center or something. So yeah, we have to clarify and kind of it's a very small thing, but very technical.
Small.
Yeah.
We will be happy to receive information from you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
That's why we're here to help. And no system is perfect. We're always adjusting, and we'll be happy to learn all these nuances and file it. Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you very much. Commission ng Wikang Filipino, National Museum, Cultural Center of the Philippines, National Historical Commission, National Library, National Archives, and National Commission on Culture and the Arts. UNESCO is online no more. They'll just submit it. Yes. So we the committee, of course, as a newly created committee, will adopt the rules of the Senate and the rules governing inquiries in aid of legislation. Yes. We are grateful once again for staying on. Salamat po for coming. And I hope I did not stretch our beyond the lunch hour. Thank you. Our office is open for any suggestions, clarifications, budgetary support, hanggang kaya, and support for your programs. Thank you very, very much. Okay.